Are you sick and tired of being alone? Do you stare out the window wondering where all the other gamers are and if they're having more fun than you? Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, they are. And I have a place for you. Let me explain. Using our patented pre-generative AI, let me explain it this way. That's too complex. Come to the ACG Discord. For $5 a month or a YouTube membership, you get a couple discrete chat channels, group streams, hanging out with people from the podcast, and just having a blast. I can't tell you that it'll replace that gold digger who keeps stealing your credit card or suddenly make you as cool as a Bollywood dancer. But I can tell you it's a bunch of people having a blast, talking about games, movies, and music. It also helps the channel stay sponsorless. So no longer videos at the start or into my reviews where I talk about the brand new Beats headphones. And you can see some videos early have input into podcast questions and topics, as well as discuss some of the games coming up for review. Come join the ACG Discord. It helps us help you help everyone. Sup, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny for today's Best Gaming Podcast number 525, where we're going to be diving into the news, and we're also going to continue the discussion that I had. Well, what is it? If you're by yourself, is it a discussion?
Sure. Let's go with that.
Okay.
I talked to ChatGPT. Is that a discussion? Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, so we're going to continue the discussion of remaking old games and why even one little change can end up messing up the entire feeling of the new title. So, which I thought was actually an interesting thing that was randomly asked by somebody during the podcast discussion phase. So I thought that was actually very cool to actually have that. What's up, everybody? I'm glad you guys got a chance, if you can, tweet out that we're doing this. We were actually talking about if we're going to, prior to the podcast, if we're going to start streaming to other locations. And we are. We're trying to actually figure out some tech behind the scenes. I want things to actually work out well for a week, maybe. No power loss would be nice.
That'd be great.
No mic issues. You know, my quest for things to be absolutely like perfect has never been met, even a single time. I would say that's the perfection. My quest for perfection has never actually been perfected. But once we get a couple in and make sure we know exactly what we want to do, it's definitely a contested space now. I was looking at some of the research for podcasts. We had in the last 3 months, I think, over 250 podcasts have engaged Friday podcasts. So we used to have this to ourselves, completely to ourselves. 250 just on Friday, brand new, let alone movie stars that do podcasts every day now. Like Dax Shepard, I was talking to the guys in chat. I'm like, I can't compete with like a B-level actor. I mean, he may be a Q-level actor, like for lacking in quality. It doesn't matter. It's like still, the amount of that is like nuts. So I was sort of surprised by that. But we definitely do want to stream to other places. We just don't want to make the mistake that we made last time. I made last time. None of these guys did.
Hopefully the tooling is a lot better now, especially like you were saying with the ability to get all the chats in one place, just the backends being a bit smoother, everything.
It's so crazy because the behind the scenes for here is such great bandwidth. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff, but it just doesn't have the same kind of fan base as a stream does in a different location where you could, I mean, you can get just because of the way it augments and puts everything in the algorithm is different on those. And then
and it's the culture.
Kick. Yeah.
How people talk to each other, how they like to support, all that.
I want to stream on Kick. I saw some people in my industry who were saying, hey, if you stream on Kick, we're never giving you codes. I don't know what the issue with that is. I think it's because they allow gambling. But as far as I remember, gambling, like you have to be over a certain age to gamble. So at that point, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to have any issues streaming there if I can.
Plus, you don't do gambling. So
no, I
get the conflict for if it was an ad, you would run, or, I get that.
It's the moral outrage. It's the moral outrage police that is just like, dude, seriously, you're going to try to control me for a decision I want to make 6 months in the future? Like, come on, man. Come on. Gentle Stone sounds awesome and also states, I have to choose between you guys and Jez and Rand today. Is that like a rock band? Jez and Rand. Country stars, Jez and Rand. Sing the hits. What it's like to be lonely. Speaking of lonely, let's segue this. How was your week? Speaking of lonely and talking to your computer,
miserable.
Johnny. Yeah. How was your week?
Actually, I had a great week. Last week was Deep Sail, like we talked about. This week was a
week.
solid, definitely get it on Game Pass. Consider full price. Yeah,
that's
pretty good.
That's all you have to say?
No, that's all I got. I showed up to my workouts and actually, like we talked about, not only showed up, but actually, had a solid effort. So I'm pretty happy about that. Work's been good. Did a big release for our new database platform. Lots going on. And actually also did a video on the main gaming channel about Death Stranding that I thought was really... I don't know. I felt like
the juice. I can't remember what the topic was. Something's the juice.
The journey is the juice.
Journey's the juice. The J&J.
Journey before destination.
Everybody in chat, what do you guys, how do you rate your week? Let's go buy if it was just a great week. You had maybe a couple bad things, but you got through them. Maybe you hid the body and you really don't worry about anybody finding it. And then we'll go with like, wait for a sale is you're worried that the body can be found, right? Like, or maybe you've left some evidence somewhere if you killed somebody. I'm just assuming we're all assassins. But it was wait for a deep sales, like it's a pretty bad week, and maybe you're watching the podcast on a cell phone in Argentina in some kind of cafe, on an internet cafe.
Cut ties.
Yeah, you've cut ties to everybody, and you're hiding off into the corner. And then never touch is, I mean
you're
do
caught.
They allow? Yeah, they've got the internet in prisons, I think. So never touch.
In Norway.
In Norway.
Norway, you're chilling. Yeah.
In Norway, they've got open doors at the prison. They're just like, come back. Okay, listen, dude, we know you shivved some people. You need to come back at 6 p.m. or we're going to come out and find you. But listen, you get back here. It's a hot meal.
To like the one person that's out there committing crimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. This week, hope somebody else buys it from me, Oregon Fresh says. Awesome. First it was a buy, then came back from vacation, and now it's a wait for a sale. That's what Spetsu says. Gentle Stone says, Johnny, I hope the DB release went well. Always scary times.
Thank you, sir. It was. Yeah, it was awesome.
Let's see. My week was definitely buy. Yeah, we started out with the review, or I started out with the review for Eric's Holm, which was phenomenal little stealth game. Absolutely enjoyed it. It's 80%, 81%, which, we don't really care about meta here because, or open critic, other than to show you guys like the general thought process, because people can like things at a different level. But that game's stealth chops and the ability for it to understand that the basic things can end up turning out to be like not necessarily hyper complex, but hyper engaging. And it reminds me of like every time I look at a game, I remember the days when it was nothing but pixels and then it's polygons, even though they're still made of the same thing. But, and like at some point you see all the edges on everything. And then one day you look at a game and you're like, is that actually a telephone pole? Because I don't see any polygons. It just keeps stepping up. So that game, it really was one of the most enjoyable laid back vibe. It's like a vibe stealth game, which is crazy.
I feel like that game, just for the atmosphere, might pull in people who are not even into that type of game.
Yeah.
Whereas, what's that other one that
Shadow Tactics?
You compared to Shadow Tactics? Yeah. That was admittedly also a very tough game, right? But I felt like that game, you really had to be a pretty hardcore stealth fan to get into.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I could see some people getting in for the vibes, the atmosphere.
Waima Gaming says, everyone play Chained Echoes. Feels so good. Gives you them Super NES vibes. So good. Music is amazing. Spetsu says, there's good DLC coming. Oh, The Weekend is good DLC. Yeah. So, dude, yeah, it's crazy because the music, it was sort of like this vibe-ish. Everything about it is, it's not cozy. It's not cozy, but it's definitely vibe. It's sort of like the vibe programming thing you see taking over everything right now. It's like you're sort of doing and thinking and seeing results. That sort of vibe for me is where you're not butting your head against stuff. You're just doing, seeing results. The results may be what you want or not exactly what you want, but the frustration, when the frustration comes up, the comfort that you've already had is relaxing enough and enticing enough that going back to it offsets the frustration of a death. Because I would die. I would push forward. I would die. I would do something stupid, or there'd be an area where I had not gone to, and the shadows, you know, if your nose is slightly out of order and one of the guys sees you, that line of sight is like, bang, it's right on you. But cool characters, different story. You know, I guess the only thing I would say is I sort of wish it was a more fantastical world, because it's this world that's like, here's a fake Scandinavian world. Here's fake people doing stuff in a fairly normal world, if you consider steampunk to sort of advanced a little farther, plus sort of the mechanist age. But then there was something missing about the vibe, man. I think it's just because every time I see that industrial age section, it's always steampunk. So I kept expecting some robot to show up and be like, and smash my stealth character. And instead, it was always, you know, dudes running around. But the other great thing was their sense of panic, man. I loved it that the more you went, you'd get these characters that were like, you know, they're talking about it. They're saying that she went and she knocked out a bunch of people and blah, blah, blah. And the more it goes, and occasionally you can make somebody panic and run off. You can make somebody retreat, and it opens up a spot. And that kind of stuff was just, it was fantastic, man. 15 hours, I think. 14, 15 hours. That's a long time for a stealth game. I feel like, especially a game that I would say is in the indie range. I was wrong on the price too. I said 49, but it was only 39. So I had to edit up my video. I had to chop it up a little bit, but it's definitely worth it. Just bought the game, The Drifter. Can't wait to play it during the weekend. Yeah, reminds me of Full Throttle. I saw previews of The Drifter, and I think I saw some reviews as well. It looks good. The Altars is a very good game. Yes, it is. I'm getting my ass kicked on Ready or Not on PS5. Awesome game, but boy, is it grim. Did you ever play that one?
No.
No. Me neither. Alex says ACG, the Mortal Kombat 2 movie trailer's out. Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean, it looks awesome. I like the idea of it. I'm all for a video game, you know, a movie based on a video game. Did you see the trailer for it? It's got the guy from The Boys. What is it? Carl Urban. I almost always call him Keith Urban, which I believe is Nicole Kidman's country singing husband, which would be quite the difference in casting. It's got The Rock. It looks good. I mean, are you going to any movies or anything? Anything caught your eye lately? Are you going to go to Toronto?
I might.
I'm going to Toronto.
I am looking at going for a couple. I thought about Superman, thinking about going for that one.
Very cool. Anybody in chat seen Superman? Buy, wait for a sale, never touch. Go ahead and rate it.
Yeah. Do you like Urban for Johnny Cage? Because as much as I love the guy, I think I've loved him in everything he's done. Even like...
But he doesn't fit that position?
He doesn't seem to kind of fit the vibe of the character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really don't know if I'm too much of a fan. You got to go by, Doug. I don't know if I'm too much of a fan of the casting yet. But casting in these titles have a tendency to be all over the place anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on 1 second.
That is true.
Goodbye, buddy. Come on. Sorry. My doggo is ill, so I got to make sure he has a way to get outside before he's trying to get by me again. Yeah, man, it's like, dude, casting, it's the same way with the voice actors. You'll hear somebody say, this person's a voice actor for this in this game, and sometimes my brain will go, that's weird.
Yeah.
But then, you know, for example, and we're going to talk about Metal Gear, but you look at, what's his name? Keith Sutherland, who took over. I wasn't nearly as bothered as everybody else by it. It's just like, okay, you know, this is a thing. So it's just, it all depends. I think the Superman casting's the one that got me more, where the general vibe of it, as well as the general vibe of Fantastic Four, they're just not really, they're not fitting my general interest right now, which happens in games too. You know how sometimes you see a game, like for example, if you had asked me a couple months ago if I was interested in playing Eric's Holm, I don't know if I would be like, it's just one of those times where sometimes you grab a game and you're like, let's check this out. And I honestly think those are some of the best memories, jumping into a game and being like, I'm going to check this out. I'm not really absolutely, dying to play this, but it turns out to be, something you loved. So,
yeah.
We do have a couple questions. A bunch of people Telegram. Sorry I didn't get some of these out as quick. I was in the middle of doing a review and I didn't realize we had a podcast, but I didn't get a chance to like grab everything. That's going to be a question for the remake. Tactickler says, Carrick, I know you love your achievements and trophies. I have a question. You're suddenly chief architect of a brand new achievement trophy system. What's the one metric or behavior you'd track that nobody's gamified yet? What's the achievement or track or like specific thing that nobody tracks currently that I would want in an achievement system? Damn, do you have any ideas, Johnny?
That's such a great question. I would love to think more deeply about it. Like, what's something interesting to track that would be cool to reward? And what would map to an organic playing of the game as opposed to checkmark hunting of a list?
I guess it would depend on the game. It'd be hilarious. See, I want to count the bad stuff. Like, my brain went bad right away. My brain went to how many missed parries did you do? Like in a Dark Souls, because you get these jackasses who are like, I beat Dark Souls. They'll be watching a Twitch stream. And you're like, oh, really? Well, let's go check. And it's like 67,000 missed parries or whatever. It's like, okay, gotcha. That kind of stuff would be fun to sort of track, but only if the person wanted to track them, because they may not even want to do that. Yeah, I would say I actually would love to see stuff like how many mana potions you drank, because there have been games that have tracked that, and I've always had a differing opinion on what the game said. I'll be like, I probably had one every couple hours. Whoa, sorry. I probably had one every couple hours, and then I'll go in and check, and it'll be like, 50 an hour average for the first 3 hours of the game, and you're like, damn.
Yeah. And it would be cool to see where you sit among the community. You know how in Telltale games, in the end, they say, you and 50% chose this, or you and 70% chose that.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see, like, you and 40% of the community fell on your ass in Death Stranding over 25 times.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, like stats like that would be fun.
That would actually be cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, that's about it. Sorry. Hey guys, shut the fuck up. Sorry. Just gotta put a, if I don't yell at them, they'll just never stop. Let's see. That one's way too complicated. Carrick, what lesson from your days of felling trees and patrolling graveyard shifts still shapes your review philosophy? If you had to gamify, what life insight would be the core mechanic? What lesson from...
Protect your toes.
Protect them
thing
toes.
You said about the shoes.
Protect them digis, man. You got to make sure those digis don't get chopped off. No, honestly, planning. I mean, that's such a generic thing, but it's like the number of people, even when we get people in the chat or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, I'm talking to, for example, like Solar is reviewing lightly on the side. And one of the things I always bring up is like scheduling and stuff, because it sounds dumb, but in a world where you don't know if a company's going to delay a game or do this or move a game or announce a game, scheduling is super important. But yeah, protecting them digis, probably the most important thing, protecting those digis. I would say also, man, dude, hard work, and like putting your head down and doing stuff is not celebrated nearly enough anymore. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, so you can get mad if you want, but I'm just stating that, when everybody's like, man, I can't believe we don't have 3-day work weeks. I can't believe I'm not given money for doing nothing. I can't believe I can't. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I obviously come from a different time, but for me, usually if I worked hard and worked longer or worked smarter, I was able to do more. That's the math that works for me. The math has never really worked for me to like, oh, so for example, if I put an efficiency in what I'm doing, it never equals, it does well, and it's a force multiplier, but at some point it never equals just sometimes sitting down and doing the work and just being like, I am going to do this. Yesterday I was in chat almost all day, and it was muted almost all day. They were chatting in the background, but I was coding the entire time because I was, or not coding at that time, I was actually playing, but because I had to put my head down. You know, you can't just walk off and go do your own thing, because I think a lot of people assume being a reviewer, you're just playing games and laughing and somehow everything gets done for you. I wish.
Yeah, everything just falls into place.
Everything just fell into place. Let's see, what else do we got here? Little tiny subjects. You put out that the old Donkey Kong came out, and that thing scored really well. I was super surprised. I think, well, not super surprised in the way that it scored well, but I was telling Johnny prior to the podcast, a little surprised that it scored so well with some tech issues here and there. But, you know, Nintendo, even though it's a Switch 2, they still sort of get away with it, right? They still...
Yeah. And it's not something that one or two people noticed. No. Everybody's mentioning the, FPS issues and stuff like that, stability.
Do you think that sometimes it's because people play it on handheld and therefore they can't see the numbers of performance? And if they can't see it, it's not occurring. And you know what I mean by that. I mean, they don't, let's be honest, man, Steam's added an overlay and you know it. You know what's happening, unfortunately. Every person is watching a graph. They're not watching the game. Dude, think about it this way. The overlays have become the mini maps of talking about games now. That is honestly what's happened. People talk about their overlay of FPS and stutter and latency, and as if they even know what's going on, and they treat that like the game. And you're all, dude, why don't you just play the game? I've had people in the stream that will talk constantly about a red bar graph, occasional bounce in their graph. And I'm like, dude, you're in the midst of like an MMO raid. What are you doing? Like, is that really what you want gaming to be? I mean, imagine reading a book and an AI or you were listing the number of adjectives it used. And you were consistently going, on page 20, it didn't have as many as paid, you know, you'd be like, dude, what the fuck, man? Where are we with this shit? But I don't know.
So that's almost the opposite spectrum, where the metric itself becomes your experience because your perception of it is now coloring your experience.
Well, it's bigger in your heat graph of life, right? Like, it's sort of, if you look at what you pay attention to, it becomes bigger than the game, which is so weird. So maybe with the handhelds, people don't have easily that ability. So maybe they're just like, boom, I'm just jumping in, you know? I'm just going to play.
I was telling you before we went live how weird of a double standard it is when you compare it to other studios and just consoles. If a Sony game comes out and it has really shoddy FPS, that's instantly shit on by everybody, right? We saw that with some of the ports as well that they've done. So it's interesting that that's the case, and yet Nintendo doesn't really have to worry about it because they know if the game itself is fun for people, they will be okay with it. And again, like I was telling you, I don't know if it's a double standard so much as it is different demographics, different groups of people playing on a Nintendo system. They just don't care as much about that side.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a positive to it, right? There's an expectation on your PC with a 4090. There's an expectation on your console that costs $600. You know, the consoles aren't doing themselves any favors by costing as much as they do. It's not their fault. I mean, it is their fault and not their fault. You know, there are, you want to make some money on your console. So it's like at some point, you know, the expense is sort of written in, but their expectations of certain things. And when it you get something that's like, you know, 25 FPS on a console, that thing's going to be talked about for ages. But like Donkey Kong, and I got to tell you, Johnny, this is what bothers me. It's the same thing I talked about with Halo Master Chief Edition. Is it's a premier IP of theirs. If you're going to put your best foot forward, why chop it off first? and just throw it on the ground in front of you. Like, that seems like such an odd way to display your IP. Be like, yeah, man, it's the return of Donkey Kong. After what, 25 years, I think they said? It's the return of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And here you go. And you're like, okay, damn. It's just such an odd way of delivering your major IP. And it's not the only time that's happened, obviously. But.
Well, I think it also shows the priority when it comes to the development for all these studios.
Mm-hmm.
They are prioritizing other things instead of technical performance. You know, they're looking at maybe creativity in some of the game systems. They're looking at, in this case, the destruction of environments and the fun aspect of that. And all of those things, you know, good or worse, they take the higher priority.
But do you feel that? So I feel that if we say that, we're automatically then negating that people who are making other games are magically not creative or not trying to look at creativity.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Other people do pull it off.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. I just feel like it's pretty unfair to be like,
I think so.
Like, oh, these guys are working on creativity, but this other group isn't. And you're like, really? Seriously? They're not? I mean, they are. It's just for whatever reason, Nintendo's own developers have had difficulties throughout the past delivering. I mean, every Zelda, right? Especially, well, more
There's
so
always
Breath
been
of the
something.
Wild. But yeah, Breath of the Wild was rough, man. I remember playing that just being like, damn, okay, you guys delivered a game for sure. One that's, you know, I really love, but damn, the game was also pretty.
It's beautiful, but it was
rough.
Also held by, what do you call it? Like, pincers or something.
Yeah, it felt like it was constantly ready to fall apart a little bit, like Red Dead 2 or Red Dead 1 felt, you know. So there's, especially because I don't think there's much creative about Donkey Kong, for instance. I mean, that's nothing against Donkey Kong. They've delivered a really good title that does what it needs to do, but it's not magically creative like the Zelda games with the constructing and all that. So it's like even the level of creativity isn't super high in this, and it's still. And they have stated that it's a Switch 1 game that was translated to Switch 2, but they, you know, it's also not running half of the new cool stuff that the Switch 2 has in it. So it could also be Nintendo trying to make sure they have enough titles to keep the purchases going, you know, where they're like, hey, we're just going to deliver this. But yeah, I'm still excited to check it out. Like, I still do want to see it. What do you guys think was the main strategy of not having Bonanza at launch? It's a good question, man, because I think having that at launch would have been such a better proposition for gamers. Having that day one, you know, versus waiting would have been great to be able to jump in. Spetsu PLN. I'm always going to not remember what that is. 11.99 says, going out for a board game night. Have fun, gents. Enjoy your board games. Hopefully you win. Hopefully it's Dice Throne. I think I got him into Dice Throne too. I feel like I've got everybody into that damn game. But,
by the way, that currency is the Polish zloty.
So you're telling me it's got one letter that matches the rest of the word, the P and the LN?
Yeah.
Doesn't. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, we live in a real world. That's the way it goes.
But hey, 100% critics recommend Donkey Kong Bonanza on OpenCritic. Goddamn.
Did anybody get Donkey Kong? Because it's out now, right? Or is it not? Are we still waiting?
It is out.
It's out?
Yeah, it's full out.
So did anybody get Donkey Kong? What are your thoughts on Donkey Kong? Also, I wanted to talk about this for a second. So did you see the news that Steam had delisted? They'd started looking at delisting games that were adult, and they're working with credit card companies to figure out what's adult. Dude.
Damn. Okay.
That is just not a good look. If there's anybody I don't want controlling stuff, it's a fucking credit card company. Like, and it's not the first time this has happened. OnlyFans had issues with credit card.
Absolutely.
The transfer of cash, credit cards. Cryptos had issues with credit cards. Credit cards do control the majority of like what you can buy or can't buy, and they can basically make it so that a company can go. For example, Patreon, if they decided you can't use PayPal, or you can't use a credit card, it's like depersoning the person. There's no ability for that person to make money or trade money or use it in any way. But yeah. I mean, I would say I saw some of the games being delisted. I'm not going to bring these up, guys. If you guys get a chance, you should check. Some of them were definitely Some of them were
rancid.
basically, they were rancid, but they were also basically the action would be illegal. But the first thing I brought up,
we
were in voice chat, the news popped, I saw it, and I was like, is Baldur's Gate 3 going to be on there for bestiality? I bet you no.
No.
They'll get a special pass. I bet you $1 billion they will get a special pass. Can you imagine how people would turn around and be like, whoa, you're stepping on our toes if Baldur's Gate got...
And this is where it gets weird, right? Once you start cribbing some games, now you need someone doing the arbitrage. That's a word, like the shot calling. What belongs there, what doesn't, what is the standard, and inevitably you're gonna have cases like you just mentioned where you're gonna have to suspend certain standards for things.
Yeah, dude. There's just no way it would happen. It's just not going to happen. There's enough political clout now that the Baldur's Gate guys have. There's enough, Steam knows where it just wouldn't happen. They would find a way around it. They will. And so if multiple games with bestiality, which I hope they're not there, but I'm sure they are. This is Steam. I'm sure they're there, right? They're there for sure. If they do continue to be it, we're definitely going to get some videos where people are like, dude, what are we doing? Like, why did this one not? And you're going to know.
And
right
it's
away.
also, it's such a weird line. It's such a weird job for someone to have to decide, is bestiality okay? Is, furry is okay? Like what's
true? What's
on the other side of the line?
True. And by the way, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure there were some games that had. Yeah, it's a weird one, man. I wouldn't want to be in charge of that. But again, if the credit card companies do it, they're also big enough that I bet you some, random dude named Bob who's sitting behind his computer talking about what they're going to process for Steam doesn't know what Baldur's Gate 3 is. Now, if he goes home and his kid, his 14-year-old kid, who's got the Gen Z face, the moment he walks in, and Bob's like, what's going on? His kid's and he's like, I don't understand. What did I do wrong? And, his kid, takes 4 hours to explain to him that basically he's mad at him for removing Baldur's Gate. Well, then maybe it would be put back on and all these rules would go away. We'll just have to see. I think the adult games mostly, I can't read that, but it's one hell of a thing to dictate that, especially since the lines can get as thin as Valve or the banks want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woodpit says they tried to do that with gun manufacturers. Yakuza is considered an adult game. That's true. Yakuza has some very questionable stuff. Yeah, man, it's weird. It's weird. You can sort of tell who's in control at any one time. It's like, everything's allowed. Let's celebrate fucking, a goat in this game. And then 2 years later, different people come in charge and are like, how dare you? You must only masturbate with your right hand, and you can only do it on Tuesdays. And
it's a regional thing as well. Like some Japanese games get away with lots of really weird, questionable stuff. Like remember like Persona 5 with your, what was it? Your teacher?
Your teacher?
Being your cleaner and like, oh, master, I'll do anything for you. Okay, we get what's going on.
Yeah. Ref says, from what I hear, they're more bending the knee to credit card companies and working with them. Well, I mean, I guess that is still working with them because if you capitulate, at some point you're accepting whatever rulership is over the top of you. They've allowed it for how long, and now they magically aren't. Well, that to me indicates that somebody else is sort of calling them shots. Like you said, it is bending the knee, but I also think it's working with them because you could also just be like, no. But then, what do you do? Now you're out of business. And, Gabe needs another yacht, man. He needs another one. Gabe's got that yacht collection like fucking Magic the Gathering cards, man. He has to roll out another one. Arbiter of Slop will be an official job title. Yeah, slop is such a terrible word for gaming now. Slop has become such a... It's one of the worst descriptors of anything in the universe because now, as it immediately happened, some jackass used it. I don't know who, but I'm sure you could probably trace it to some fucking Reddit, and somebody said it, and now it's used for everything.
I've seen like Friend Slop talking about games that are like better in co-op.
Yeah, dude, for games that are better in co-op but aren't great, Friend Slop, right? Like anything. Person shirt doesn't fit perfectly.
Slop.
Dress
it's
slop.
Like already
Yeah.
all flattened down to slop.
Yeah, it complete and once again, people are using it to like categorize an entire thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's got FPS
one big
slop.
bucket.
This is FPS slop. You know, yeah, it sort of sucks. What else do we got on the old news stuff before we dive into remaking video games?
I wanted to bring up, so Donkey Kong came out. It's got a new patch, 1.1, and the patch states various adjustments have been made to create a more comfortable gameplay experience. I don't think I've ever seen a worse like game patch. It's a description without a description. There's no data. There's no information of what change may have been done. And by the way, this is their standard. If you look back to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it recently got a Switch 2 update, not like a full upgrade, but an update. And the only thing stated was several adjustments have been made to improve gameplay on Nintendo Switch. Like,
that's
no clue
notes?
as to what it is. That is the patch notes. So this is Nintendo's version of giving you data. Fascinating.
Dude, patch notes are such an interesting thing because they become... there's a podcast that actually does nothing other than read patch notes for games for the end of each week. And I mean, whatever floats your boat, right? There's people who just review podcasts by saying, like, what are the top 10 podcasts that occurred last week? You know, that's life. But it is weird when you do look at the difference. You'll get patch notes from Owlcat. Now, Owlcat admittedly has their work cut out for them. They do need more patch notes because they do need more patches. So, like, it wouldn't be surprising. But, you know, improvements is pretty much what they're saying. Like, hey, we've got improvements. Have a good one. You're just like, damn, seriously? That's what you're gonna stick with?
We've made adjustments.
Yeah. But you know what that could also be? I do want to point out that could be that nobody is really in charge of putting down the patch notes, and that, you know, they just haven't as for whatever reason jumped into understanding that people track those as much. We had Kig, who was in, you know, I can't remember what game it was. It's probably a lot of games with Kig because he's had a lot of bugs on some different games here recently. But if I remember, he was reading, you know, he was consistently looking at patch notes, right, to see if his patch, right, if his specific instance had been patched. So improvements is like, dude, that's not helping me out at all. Fix some bugs with some quests, and you're like, okay, am I gonna turn the game back on to play the whole thing again? So it's on them because digital allows for them to deliver those patches. It's also on them to communicate. And you would think that they would want to communicate, right? Because it would just make somebody want to jump back in. You would want to communicate.
Right.
So, yeah. ACG, is it true fans are not happy with the new Cyberpunk update? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, I heard that there was a patch, but I haven't heard if people are unhappy. I don't know anybody who plays it anymore. So, like, it was a thing for a while, but I haven't heard anybody even playing Cyberpunk in a long time. So I don't know if anybody, at least that I talked to, has like gone back and reloaded it, unless they just did it for the patch. I think is this the one that added flying cars or self-driving?
I am not
cars?
aware.
Self-driving cars. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. The banning of certain adult games, I feel, comes from games like No Mercy. This is Hanging In says that. I don't know what No Mercy is. I know what No Mercy is. Actually, scratch that. I do know what that game is. That game, and Hatred was another one. Did you ever play Hatred? Hatred was another one of those like really rough, very aggressive, violent games that you were just like, is this really a thing? Like, did you really make a game? Or is it, you know, Postal was like that. I grew up when Postal first came out. And entire entire articles in the PC magazines would come out and they'd be like, Postal, you know, you can use a cat's butt as a silencer. Oh my, it's animal cruelty, which that is a sign of animal cruelty in real life, in a game, and in that kind of game where you're pissing on people. It's like, not so much. But this isn't the first time it's happened. Those patch notes are terrible. What else we got?
Let's see here. The Assassin's Creed series was greenlit on
I know.
Netflix. So that's apparently happening. What's your level of expectation for that?
Listen,
is it high up with like
yes,
Fallout
it's high up.
level?
No. But mine wasn't high for Fallout because until I saw trailers and we started to see. Honestly, Assassin's Creed has a ton of lore, and if handled right, it's fine. I know there was a movie that was really bad, but that doesn't bother me because I've loved series where the movies were bad, or movies that were good, the series was bad, vice versa. I might have just reversed that. That kind of stuff, completely normal for me. I want to see it. Yeah. I mean, I think Assassin's Creed has a ton of lore, dude. I mean, the amount of lore, the amount of worlds you could go to, the amount of things you could do. I would love it. I would love it. I would also love it if they did something crazy where occasionally, if it's based in the slightly current future or if it's based in the past, they had a mission episode occasionally where they went somewhere else completely and played somebody different, like DLC. I just think that would be one of the coolest things in the world is if the character in AC could basically adjust and bounce and move around, just like you see in the games. I would adore that. What about you?
Yeah, it's so hard to know what to expect. I don't think we know what setting it's going to be or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I keep thinking back to is the movie. Did you see the one with Michael Fassbender?
I didn't, but I heard it was bad.
Yeah, it was pretty poor. And I mean, he's a great actor, but it just like the plot didn't work in that medium. So yeah, I'm really curious how they're going to structure it so it makes sense in a show.
Do you think it's because it was 2 hours, man? And 2 hours is rough. I mean, how do you...
It's very rough because they had to introduce like the animus and everything. Yeah, that's true. I think a show with like 10 episodes, you have a much better chance of getting to spend enough time with these things.
And let's be honest, most gamers who play Assassin's Creed will stick through 2 hours of a show because they've stuck through 60 hours of an Assassin's Creed, right? Like, so I think the people who want to watch it have a slightly higher patience rate than somebody who's watching the very next Korean zombie show on Netflix or whatever, you know, where they're popping in and out and they're jumping in and out. What else we got for news?
Honestly, from my side, that's about all I got.
Quiet news week, man, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like this entire week was a little bit more laid back when it came to news. Bitlerus says, bad video games, movies is the norm. I'm pleasantly surprised when one is good. What are some good movie renditions of a video game? Can't be a show. So I would say Mortal Kombat 1 was fantastic. That's just me. I liked almost everybody. I think at the time, the casting was pretty much exactly who were the top tier of your Asian actor for Shang Tsung. All those guys, Johnny turned out to be a much better... I had forgotten he really knew martial arts, so he showed up. I think Mortal Kombat 1 was good. Sonic, that's true. Sonic movies have rocked it. I forgot about that. Sonic movies
against all odds.
Yeah.
Actually,
dude,
were good.
Yeah. Against every odd known to man. I mean, I don't know how they worked out. Was Mario good? Pentagon Fortress says that, but I'm not quite sure. Or no, somebody said that. Yeah, he did. He said, was that one good? I don't remember. I don't know. I never checked out the Mario one.
I think the consensus on that one and Minecraft was that it was fun for like a family time with your kids, but not great movies, strictly speaking.
Bicky Monster says the first Tomb Raider. Was that Angelina Jolie?
Yes, and then we had one with Alicia Vikander, who is amazing.
Which is your,
in
I know
every single way possible.
Dude, I don't see it. I still don't see it. We've had this conversation before. I don't even understand where you're coming from, but I support your your distance relationship with her that you have and the naming of your pillows. I will just say, please don't push it any farther than that. But it is funny. Oh, true. Silent Hill. First Silent Hill. I think first Silent Hill movie was actually not bad. Yeah, that's true. Admittedly, this is more than I thought. Okay, let me ask the real question. Did anybody like the Max Payne movie? That was with Miley Kunis and Marky Mark, or whatever he's fucking called, whatever he's changed his name to, even though he changed his name so long ago. Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
No.
Didn't like that one? I never saw it. I never saw it. Let's see. What else? I think that's about it for like video game movies. Street Fighter. There's a new Street Fighter coming. Did you see that, Johnny? A new Street Fighter?
I did.
Movies. Dude.
Yeah.
Dude. And they've got some crazy casting, man. Some crazy casting for that movie. I don't see it, though. Sorry.
You know what's weird with those ones, with Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, is that the original movie was like a B movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew it was that at the time. We knew it watching at the time that it was a sort of, fun B movie. So we didn't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
But what we see now is them taking themselves pretty seriously with Mortal Kombat movies. But then the movies themselves don't really hit the mark to be like a seriously good. Does that make sense? It's kind of like they are B movies sense. Without wanting to be.
No, it makes,
so I'm worried about Street Fighter too, because it can be so goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense because the B movie is my shtick. That's what I grew up on, was B movies, and B movies are distinctly different than a poorly made movie. A B movie is many times are people with the budgetary constraints and all that, but at the same exact time, they're aimed at still trying to deliver whatever flavor at the best they can, or at the best they can with the budget that they have, regardless. And then you have the B that are cheesy on purpose, and it's really just like your friends and you riffing in the middle of the night. And then you have like Ewan Boll, or whatever his name is, the guy who did like Dead Island and a couple others, and he's just known to be a terrible movie maker. And he just keeps getting money. And he can't make a movie. Like, it's... Okay, listen. At some point, you can't hold a kid back anymore, right? If that kid's 18 and he's in 5th grade still, you got to call it, right? At some point, you got to call it. And you have to be like, listen, it's not working out. Dude, you have Social Security in just a couple years and you're still in 5th grade. This isn't working out. He is the equivalent of the fifth grader who is like 37. He cannot make a movie. It is so interesting.
You got to cut him off.
But they're not. They just keep giving him assistance. They're just like, we'll put him in a different desk. And you're like, dude, I don't think you understand. I mean, all the other kids are looking at him going like, dude, I'm seriously. Billy can only be held back so much before he's, like just old. And the thing about him is he hasn't improved. It's so interesting.
Dude, it's so harsh, but it's true.
It's true. He hasn't improved. I watch all of them because I'm waiting. If he were to succeed and do a good, well drawn out movie, I would be the first person to be like, that's awesome, because he does pick game titles a lot of times. But he has single-handedly drug video game titles down in the idea of what you can deliver, because he will get it. Alone in the Dark had its moments. Christian Slater, Alone in the Dark, there were times where I was like, this might, nope, fuck that up. It's like, no matter what, like I said, he walks up to the chalkboard, starts to draw some shit, and it looks like he's doing math, and then he's drawing a dick. And you're like, dude, put him back in his chair, man. He can't get up. You can't put him forward on stuff. But they just keep doing it. He would benefit. Listen, he would benefit from ChatGPT 2. That's not a lie.
Damn.
The ChatGPT I used to write video game reviews had little bits of insane inspiration that were mind-numbingly well thought out moments. Still had more than him by a good amount. So if you gave him ChatGPT 2 and you sat him in a room, his movies would be better. That's how bad his movies are.
Yeah.
And I want him to
be
better.
You ever feel like the universe is an unfair place and some people get infinite chances?
Yes.
Infinite shots at stuff, and then another person had the one shot, but they had a lot of potential and it just didn't pan out.
It's absolutely true. And because life isn't fair, the person who gets all the shots, you and I've talked about this, every time you flip that coin, it's always 50%. Even if it came up heads 150,000 million billion times prior, it's always going to be 50%. Humans don't like that. We also don't like him making movies. But he somehow...
I feel so bad for him, though.
I don't. Okay, let me ask you this. I don't. He's gainfully employed all the time, consistently gets at least B, if not A. Christian Slater back then was
True.
actually a
Why
name.
am I feeling bad? Yeah,
Why
that
you
does
feeling
make
bad?
sense.
Dude, it's ridiculous, man. But so what I was saying was, as long as he's not handling these movies, I think we should be, I think we should be pretty
And
safe.
we've had
and
enough
assuming
successes that both Netflix and, let's say, Amazon or others, that I'm hopeful.
What about, let's cast the best video game movie of all time. We sit down today, Metal Gear Solid, the movie. Who
As a movie?
As a movie. With all the batshit insane stuff. Who is Snake? Like, and I don't mean like I mean like, is there anybody that you feel, especially because as weird as that game can be with the oddities in the way the characters talk and stuff, this person would have to look good physical shape, probably has a wig
convincing.
on. Yeah. Convincing, can pull off the stuff, and yet at the same time can go outrageously over the top with a monologue for like 15 minutes. Like who would be, because he's the most important. If you did a Metal Gear, I wouldn't really care about any other character, because you could sort of put a face on somebody and be like, boom, this is what I care about. But with Snake, I don't even know who you would, I mean, because who they choose? They'd choose that Fabergé egg guy from Dune, or whatever the fuck his name is. Timothy Fabergé egg. They'd choose him, right? And they'd have him. That's the problem with casting right now, is everybody looks at the top guys. So it's like Norman Reedus, somebody just said. Exactly. Yeah, Norman Reedus is popular. Let's throw him as Metal Gear. And you're like, dude, what are we doing? Sorry.
See, the one exception to that I don't mind is Pedro Pascal. Remember, there was a time where they were just putting him up for every role. So James Bond, get Pedro Pascal.
Oh yeah, you're right. Barbie
Old
movie,
Snake, get Pedro Pascal. And we had these pictures where people put him in the roles of all these things. And like 3 months ago, there was a really good picture of him as Old Snake with the gray like beard and the band and everything. And I could definitely see that working
as an Old Snake.
Old Snake, yeah.
This is chronologically, I'm thinking of like the remade one that's coming out. I'm chronologically.
So it's got to be a bit more baby face.
I think Pedro could pull it off. Ryan Reynolds, dude, what's wrong with you, Patrick K? Come on. Hugh Jackman. Okay, see, this is it. I don't think anybody has a real answer.
There you go.
That's the problem. Nobody's got a real answer. So we go towards...
See, it also can't be Hugh Jackman, because then it's not Snake, it's Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Such a big,
it's Wolverine as Hugh Jackman. It's Wolverine as Hugh Jackman as Snake.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I approve Norman, Pedro, and Henry. Oh, Henry Cavill. No. I love that idea,
him,
though.
But I don't know it's tough.
I love the idea, but
this,
no.
It's tough.
No. On the other hand, we said no. What'd you think of him as Geralt?
I thought he did great.
Okay.
Surprisingly. Okay. Yeah, at first I thought the wig looked ridiculous, but then I was into it. You know that meme about the girl who's like, she doesn't like a thing, and then she's like, maybe. Nah. That's sort of how it went.
For me, man, I thought he did. Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job. The show wasn't as good as it was good at times, but overall, I would never say it was him that caused any issue. Like, his performance in it was never really the question. So yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Christian Bale, Jesus, now we're just going, might as well just say fucking William Shatner's still alive. What about William Shatner? Okay, admittedly, I'd watch a William Shatner as Solid Snake. He could deliver the monologues. I mean,
he could do Old Snake.
Yeah, I mean, he did a spoken word of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. If he can do that, he can do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's discuss game remakes and stuff. So yesterday I was doing the Patreon not the Patreon podcast, just the side podcast. And the question had come in, like my thoughts on remaking a Metal Gear. And I was like going through the pitfalls of remaking a game. And dude, the first thing that came up into my mind was, because of everything being from an old title and everything being made during that particular time frame and then moving it forward, balancing what was done because of gameplay / technical limits. We were talking about times when analog sticks were only one per joystick or per gamepad. And prior to that, only digital, up, down, left, right. There wasn't even 2 analog sticks. So everything you did when you made that, you had to identify, how does camo work when we have a super pixelated bush over here? How does camo work when we have no grass? How do all these things work back in the day? And you put that together and you make your game. Even audio, not as detailed, now more detailed. Can you pick out an enemy? Does it make it easier if we just remake it? Now we can hear the enemy from a mile away because audio's better in games. And then trying to move that forward. And it just became this really cool discussion about like what the difficulty of moving everything forward, adjusting things for current day, making sure they're not too adjusted, even a mini map, Johnny. Like if there's, let's say a game doesn't, not this one, but let's say a game doesn't have a mini map, and then you put one in because people want one, suddenly you have altered a huge amount of the sensory systems the game is trying to deliver to you, because you look at your mini map and see a giant red orb, meaning a bad guy's right there. Yeah. You know, like all of that kind of stuff. What do you think would be the hardest thing remaking? If I said you got to remake Metal Gear, what do you think would be the hardest thing to move or adjust, or change forward to today's time frame that you think people would demand? So something,
a really good idea.
Something that wasn't in the original, but you know that people would, you know, it's needed now. For example, in some of those games, there was no camera adjustments. Now you have 2 analogs. Can you imagine if you said, here's a third-person game, but you can't spin the camera around? People would be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Attica, I'm in prison. What the fuck? So is there something you can think of that moving forward it'd be like a weird or very difficult thing to do? I'm going to answer this person in the chat while you do that. He's got a question about something.
Go for it. Oh, okay. You mean typing?
Oh, I thought he had an issue with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things I think about mostly is movement in the game, because the way the character moves in that old engine is so different than what we have now with, say, Unreal 5 and stuff. You know, we have all these things to make it look more fluid, but it also changes the pace at which you can move and things like that. And in the original game, you kind of got used to this slow-moving pace that the character had.
Right.
And I think it would be kind of unacceptable in a game now if you moved with that cumbersome of a gait and everything. So I always think that adjusting that in a way that still feels like the old game, because if you're moving now too fast compared to it, it will feel so different. But you want to preserve that feel, but it's also really tricky to make it feel good. I always find that that's a difficult thing to square.
I'm trying to think of what would be. I think, in all honesty, especially a stealth game, some of the hardest thing would be your visuals. Think about it this way, man. Think about the first time you were playing a game where there was true grass, and you remember the days when there wasn't. You remember when Halo looked like a chemotherapy patient who had just got their clearance. They had just been told they no longer had riddling soul cancer, and they had stubble all over their head because they were just growing their hair back. And that's Halo. Master Chief, the original game, Halo, had the little stubble. And then you go to a game that has your full grass, your reeds of grass, to where now we've got games where, like Death Stranding, where if your thing sticks up too far out of the grass, they can still see you even though you're in the grass. Because remember, long grass used to just be a column of stealth. You could, as long as you were in there, you could be like lighting a dude on fire, and they're like, "Where is he?"
It was just a check in the code, like if in square,
if in this area equals fine. But imagine, to give you an example, we now can see bushes, stuff like that, up to about 8 to 9 miles is shadows. If you're on the top, if you're on the highest location, Death Stranding, about 8 to 9 miles. They use all kinds of system, nanite. They use the new one, virtual pixels, that the Shadows uses to see these trees, all this kind of stuff. And I was playing Operation Flashpoint when it first came out, which was a stealth hardcore Arma game prior to Arma. And I remember getting the scope, and I could see the enemies because there was no grass. They were just milling around. And I was like, oh, dude, and it completely changed the way I played, because I was like, they can't, they're not as great of a shot as I am, or they don't have the sensory perception yet, and I can see them, so I'm just going to take like 10, 15 shots before these guys figure out where I am. And then you get these games with grass and all these systems to where you can't see, they can't see. So even the stealth has to change. HDR, separation of color and depth, gives you the higher ability to notice if somebody's got camo. I brought it up in the podcast. Whenever I see somebody get a big head in finals to wear a suit, I'm always like, thank you, because I'll shoot you easier, because that fucking stupid ass head will be poking up above things that the normal person's, and that happens in Metal Gear. When you look at the stealth and you look at the way it's done, it's like, okay, there's these systems at play that were based on this ancient ass game, and they're coming forward. Whether it be water, sound effects, can they hear you splash? Like all that kind of stuff. It's crazy to think about how hard that must be to move a game forward. Steve talked about it, but Steve, the difference is that Night Dive, for the most part, are taking old games and remaking them. They're not it's weird, but let me say it this way. They're not remaking System Shock 2 as much as they're remaking the old System Shock 2. And then you have the Metal Gear where they're remaking that particular Metal Gear, but they're actually just sort of remaking Metal Gear. They're like, we are because in the end, this might be the push forward to the new games. So in a weird way, they're not remaking that particular game, at least exactly. They're remaking Metal Gear as a whole. They're calling the same thing. It'll be the same location. There's going to be all these changes. There's going to be all these adjustments and improvements, which, by the way, we're not talking about accessibility, because that's something that they're adding as well, which I think is fine. Like, I think that's really actually quite cool. But yeah, man, dude, there's so many things you would have to think about. I was also reading up that when they were talking about looking at what they're going to remake, when companies are looking at what they're going to remake, it's like a lot of it has money's always going to come into it. But the number one thing is looking at what gamers at the current time are playing and accepting as status quo, and then trying to guess like a fucking magic 8-ball, trying to guess what somebody will want in 4 years, because you won't know what the tech is. So imagine sitting down and going like, okay, man, we're going to do this. We're going to, remake this. What's the console system? What's the console ecosystem going to be? Are people going to be much more open to, let's say, the co-op bleeding into single player? Will there be a big game where somehow the asynchronous thing comes up and Death Stranding starts to become a thing where people are like, hey, I like this. Let's put this in every game. So now your Solid Snake can somehow drop some camo that the other Solid Snake, and that's an expectation now. Like, did you ever do the Metal Gears?
Yes, I played 3, 4, and 5.
Damn, you've rocked the Metal Gears. Like, okay, gotcha.
Just not the older ones, the first 2.
Did you play it when they came out?
More or less. Yeah,
really?
Back in the PS1 days. Yeah.
Do you remember which one you liked the best out of those Metal Gears?
Metal Gear 5 was my favorite by far.
Phantom Pain.
Because Phantom Pain was so fun. It was just this fun playground to go around. Whereas the others, I found very hard to follow the story in pretty much all of them. But then 5 was just a bit less about the story, kind of, for me at least, more about the gameplay. Whereas 4 was almost purely around story, and it was very convoluted. And 3 was also very heavy, like story-based, and very difficult to follow at the time. I was also very young, so for me, I couldn't make sense of anything that was going on at the time. And I hadn't played anything like that, so I was also out of my element. But it was definitely an awesome experience. It was just so alien that it's almost like, I keep going back to this. We were talking about the scene in Back to the Future where, like, I wasn't ready for that. Like when he plays the guitar and he says, you guys are not ready for this yet.
But
that was me back in the day. Your parents will love it. Yeah.
Dude, and I that's true. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been games I've played where I'm like, I don't quite understand where this is going. It was younger though. Now I think now games are more complex, so you have a better test bed and experiences so you can compare. But back then when some of the new ideas were coming forward, you're like, what? Like somebody would try something different, even asynchronous. The first time that popped up, or the first time asynchronous multiplayer, one enemy, 5 guys against him, like Evolve or something, and you were like, "Ooh, what is this? This feels so weird." And now Dead by Daylight's,
yeah, it's
on
a
its
staple now.
27th year or some crazy, somehow went back in time. But I think with Metal Gear, and especially remaking games in particular, I think Metal Gear, the one of the positives they're doing, they've got all the voice actors, all that, so they're not going to have the hubbub about that. That's all going to be sort of taken care of on. They've done some re-recording, I guess, cleaning up, I'm sure. Accessibility will be one, and then they've got the multiplayer. They've got different mini games. Did you see that? They've got different mini games for the Xbox version versus the PlayStation, which I thought was yeah.
Interesting.
I thought that was odd. I mean, hey, if you have the extra resources that you want to throw different time on different mini games, I guess go for it. But I would say, like, it's going to be, especially when you go back and look at, like, even just how somebody played a game. So now when you play games, you expect, for example, what is it expected on a third-person stealth game right now? Moving the camera, number one. If I can't move the camera in a third-person stealth game, I'm going to be like, what the fuck? Because that's how you're seeing around, trying to, so that'll be one of the major ones. Checking to make sure the AI never knows where you are unless you've given a reason. So even just that, in the new systems, new engines, you have to change a shit ton of stuff to basically make them stupider, to like adjust that so that they don't hear the things that, unless you make it like today's games. But I do feel that might remove some of the Metal. It might feel a little bit more like Splinter Cell made by these guys with a Metal Gear character. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a bad description, so somebody's going to get mad. But you get my drift. It'll feel more current than maybe they want it to. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking if they're going to stick with the traditional cone of vision system, which has been like the foundation of their stealth. If they want to change that to something more current, like what Shadows did with, much more 3D like, they have all this wealth of information.
Yeah.
They could there's elevation, there's sound, there's just movement, peripheral vision stuff they've got outside of their immediate cone of vision. Because in Shadows, people would see you even to the side.
Yes.
It's not like they have this frontal cone like we saw in those older games. So I'm curious if they want to mess around with that or stay really true to the roots to not alienate like the really hardcore fans.
Yeah. Or just, have a classic. I mean, I know they have different modes in there of some kind, but you could also just do a classic mode, which is like, we've locked it down to feel as close to the original without any real changes at all, including the cumbersomeness of movement, all that kind of stuff. And then your sort of modern, like we see with controls. I know they have that in their control scheme for Metal Gear. They have like a modern control scheme and a classic one. But which absolutely should be a thing. Obviously.
And I love the admission there that the old control scheme sucks. Hence them changing it to a new one.
Yeah.
If the old control scheme was great, you wouldn't need a new one to switch between. So I always find it funny when they...
But this is the one thing that I was trying to talk about in the podcast. Look at it like this. Let's go to Resident Evil for a second. Resident Evil had entire locations where you had to put all of your items out of your inventory into a box so you could go through an area. They pretend it was like a metal detector. I can't remember what this was. And now you've lost your items and you have to go through a particular area to get your items back from a different box. Whether that was done for technical reasons or because the developers wanted some delay to what was going on and a little bit of an ebb vibe for a bit, it changed all of the gameplay. Like the entire way you were doing that, now it was fisticuffs or stealth. Maybe they wanted to teach you new stealth mechanics because there was a new enemy that they wanted to show. So they're like, this is the best way to do it, blah, blah, blah. But if you take that into the future, man, and you start like saying, that's why I think Capcom has done a fairly good job, because I actually think Capcom's shown that you can do remakes that skew closer to the original than you would expect, but still have some, it still has some idiosyncrasies, obviously, from the original, but they have drawn a perfect line between like, because I would say their remakes are some of the best remakes. And I'm not even a big Resident Evil fan, but it's like you play them and you're like, dude, this does feel old in its sensibilities, but it doesn't feel old in that you're constantly bumping up against some inscrutable fucking mental block where you're like, I don't know what to do, because their thought processes were 25 years ago and they weren't even thinking what we were thinking. You know, I mean, just look at the loading in the Sega Saturn version of the original Resident Evil. You'd open a door, it'd load up and take a while, all the camera stuff. If you tried to take that in the future, they made entire gaming decisions around the doors taking a while to load. So now you're like,
and the inventory and everything.
Inventory, the
like
Tetris.
Everything is made around that.
Yeah. It's like that kind of stuff has always been crazy to me. Manuel says, "What about Oblivion Remastered?" Yeah, that was the other one. I think Oblivion Remastered did a fairly good job. They changed a couple things which seemed piecemeal. I don't know about you, Johnny, but when I saw what they had changed between the old and new Oblivion, it was a little odd because there was like, I think there was like a spell or something that changed. There was a couple things that changed that I was like, wait, what? Like, was there a complaint about this thing I didn't hear about? There were these odd changes, but then he still jumped like, just a fucking soaked vinegar dick. That guy cannot jump. If you play Oblivion, it does that thing, where it's like, where there's no like movement. It just pops into the air and you try to figure out, can I move while in the air? Do I have to have momentum? And you're trying to figure out how you do those jumps. By the way, really cool story on this. Back in the day when they didn't have momentum systems in a lot of the jumps for those kind of games, like an RPG where you could only jump forward or only run and jump, you made your geometry to fit that. So the actual geometry was made to allow for a very particular clearance so the player could clear particular parts of the geometry. Even that will change, and by the way, we all saw that. I mean, any Bethesda game, we've all tried to climb a mountain you're not supposed to climb by trying to hack the jump. Like, how many times have you hacked the jump? Thank God they don't do physics in the new Oblivion one, like true physics. You'd be falling over, like you'd look like a jackass. You wouldn't even be able to climb up a single hill. You'd fall off every boulder. But it's like you learn to hack those systems because they were made for an older game. I thought the Oblivion remake was well done. Did you play it?
Yeah. I played a bit, about 10 hours, so not that much. But then again, I didn't play the original, so it was a good chance for me to experience it. And it definitely felt pretty old school while still having the nice shine. I mean, NPCs still look kind of ugly.
Yeah.
It's not like they're magically pretty now, but, modern looking.
I mean, yeah, you would say what, modern looking B-level game? Yeah,
like the areas looked very good, I would say.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. So the exploration was great. It's still a bit hard to get into, I would say, if you don't have the nostalgia for me. But that's to be expected.
It is, and it's just because the tropes for storytelling were just at a different they weren't, they were just at a different level, which may not appeal to some people. Depends on how you get the quests, and they gave them out a certain way. I mean, you go into the Fighters Guild in those games and you're playing, and you're like, okay, I can see why in the past this was maybe loved because it gave you something extra to do and a mini cycle of upgrading, or it was a title upgrade, really. But it was like, okay, I'm a pit fighter. I've done pretty well. But really, when you do it after a while, you're like, this is quite literally a spawn in a circle. Like, it's so weird when you break it down, because when you were playing Oblivion at the first time, or any game with let's say, especially back in the day when it was just a circle, some guys and a spawn. And now games have done a good job. You see like Yakuza, Pirate Yakuza or whatever, where that one is like, hey, it's a whole place. We're going to have cutscenes. We're going to do all this crazy shit. Not back then, man. Back then, the door shut behind you. They cut off the rest of the world, and they just for like fucking plop, and they plopped a guy down, and you were like, dude, this is, I'm a pit fighter. People must know I'm a pit fighter. And then you go outside and no one knows who you are again. But still felt good. Woodpit says you could inch your way up the top of the mountains by jumping. What do you guys think is the best remake ever so far? Anybody have a best remake? Like the best remake so far? Let's not go with remaster. Remaster would be like the additions for Batman, the classic, whatever those were called. Can't remember. But we're talking full remake. I'm trying to think, what's a full remake that I've loved? I mean, I would say, I think Resident Evil 2 remake is pretty fucking good.
That is a good one. 4 was also excellent.
Four
No,
was
not
also
4. Yeah,
it was
4.
3.
4.
3,
The
4.
one 4 was the one with the Spanish
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
That
gotcha.
was really fun.
You like that one?
Final Fantasy VII Remake is great, man. You know, Rebirth was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean that's
Integrate
so
was
far
great.
beyond a remake. You know, I mean it is a remake, but that thing is beyond belief
It's
in how
beyond
much
belief.
it's like. See, that's what's cool, Johnny. If they told me they were going to remake Space Harrier, first I'd be like, "What?" This is my favorite game, but it makes no sense. It's just running forward. But at the same time, you see what they did with Final Fantasy, and you're like, "Damn!" Because
They squeezed a lot out of that. You know.
yeah, I mean, and it's not
pixels.
even. They're not even really related in a weird way because there is such a massive difference. In fact, all of the dreams you had as a child playing Final Fantasy where you dreamed, I bet you this looks like this. You know, remember when you would play a SNES game and it'd be like, you see an amazing vista. You'd be like, okay. And you'd have it in your head. You'd be like, I'm up here on a mountain, which looks like a pixel that's slightly lighter than the other pixels, and I'm seeing a mountain. And then you play the remake and you're like, damn. On the other hand, doors still look like they're from the original game. Those fucking doors.
They
rough.
fixed the doors.
They
fixed
did.
the doors.
They did have to. Yeah, they did have to.
Yeah.
Star Ocean 2 is more of a remaster, but it's awesome. Yeah, no remasters. We're talking remakes. Resident Evil 1 on the GameCube. That's going to be my new name. On the GameCube.
GameCube. Yeah.
Cube Mafia.
That was the
Definitive
black
Edition.
market version.
Yeah, that was a black market. That was the one that got removed from Steam here recently. Yeah, the GameCube. Dead Space remake. Okay, that's a good one. Star Ocean 2 Second Story.
Yeah, that was good.
Resident Evil 2. Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
great,
phenomenal remake. Yeah, that's true. That's a phenomenal one. Damn.
By the way, did you see that Virtuos, the studio that did the Oblivion remaster?
Yeah, I have it on my notes.
Laid off.
But yeah.
They laid off like 7% of the workforce.
Dude, so here's the thing. When you look at those, when you look at the layoffs, because we'll consider this somewhat related because of the Oblivion discussion.
Yeah,
but,
adjacent, semi.
So if you guys go look up this company, they're one of the most prolific assistance companies in the world, if not probably the most. So at the time they had 4,000 employees, and they've made or assisted in making just tons of games. Cyberpunk, they helped on this patch that just came out because the Cyberpunk devs are working on the new games. So they were the ones who were basically credited with most of the work that's being done. It was predominantly the Chinese facet of their company. There was a office there that they laid off, and there were some people, I believe, in France who were laid off. We were trying to figure out, is it related to Cyberpunk being done or a game being canceled? I had heard a game was canceled somewhere around here, but I never really got any headway on what game that was. But overall, I would say I think that was just this one seems to be not a big news story behind it. It apparently, or at least to me, seems like Oblivion being done, ramping that down, looking at the market and going like, where do we need people? That kind of thing, because it's a very small reduction. Feels like it was just like we're moving some people around, which we definitely, we see happen a lot of times. It doesn't feel connected to, let's say, something as big as like a giant news story or something like that. I hope not, but that's my take on it. They're insanely talented in assisting people. Like, it must be such a weird job if that's your main job, is to assist people. And not really be making your own stuff, but being technically proficient at assisting others in making games. That is just awesome to me. But yeah.
You have to be like the perfect fit. So in a way, you need to change quite a lot between projects, or
because you're always the Alfred. You're never the Batman, right? You're always the guy who's doing all the technical shit in the back, and Batman's out there banging chicks and pretending, to be a playboy.
Yeah,
and you're at home making him dinner. And they do a really good job. A spectacular job. That seems to be their talent. And by the way, that's how I made a ton of money in Game Dev Story when I first got that game. Because in Game Dev Story, you could make your own games, or you could be a port studio or an assistant studio. I was that guy. I was like, dude, why make my own thing? Why risk it? I'm just jumping in here and I'm just helping everybody else and making ports. That's all I'm doing. But yeah, Too bad about the layoff. Back to Metal Gear though, looking at this, seeing that it's on Unreal, seeing that we have all of the adjustments that Unreal's going to have, so that means, you know, obviously a better draw distance, improved pretty much everything, adjusted accessibility, which I don't know what that means. You know, I don't know if that means color blindness, which can be another thing. Now, how do you handle camo in games? Do you notice that people who, let's say, wear camo in a shooting game that you're playing that's based in the forest because you have color blindness in some way? Does your color blindness, does that come out when you're playing like in a forest level?
Sorry, give me a second.
No worries.
Sorry, my cat pressed some buttons.
Oh, gotcha.
On the audio. No, because I have like some very specific colors that I confuse, like purple and blue at times, certain shades of that. So generally those aren't the main colors you rely on for that type of like, you know, body recognition and things like that.
So then in Halo, which is purples and neons and blues, and sometimes you'll just see a guardian far away or an elite, sorry.
Right.
Did you ever notice that? Did it ever feel like there wasn't enough data out of the game visually and that you were noticing?
Yeah. What's funny is that I feel like I can operate fine. But if you ask me, is that purple or blue? I'd give you a 50-50 answer.
Oh, really?
You know?
And would you say they both look like blue, or that they're blue and a bluish shade of blue? Is that sort of what you see as
I would
a slight
say
shade?
I'm actually not sure if they are blue or purple.
Gotcha.
If they are close enough, you know?
Yeah. Hero on Business, $5 super chat. Thank you as always. Thank you for being the friends of all the gamers, impartial but not afraid of sharing your opinions, which stands out. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, you'll never have to worry. Hey, we may argue, but you'll never have to worry about wondering what I think or what Johnny thinks. I would say overall. Dude, I've had people who are like, you know, I can't believe Carrick and Johnny agree on almost everything. And I'm like, we don't. But the one thing is if we disagree, we're not going to sit there for 5 fucking hours and hash it out. Like, one of the things I've learned about games is you can point stuff. If you like something or dislike something, what I have noticed is there's almost no chance of making somebody like what they dislike or dislike what they like. It would be completely weird to change somebody's 40-hour experience with a smart, educated discussion. That does not make sense. And you'll have people pretend that that's what's happening. They'll be like, maybe I do like, dude, you had 40 hours, you hated the game, you disliked the game. Even if I tell you this is why this was done, you're like, oh, really? That's interesting. That's interesting is the equivalent of get me the fuck out of here as quick as humanly possible, because I'm not going to change my fucking mind.
Your opinion about it.
Yeah. I'm like, just wait until we start talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, because we definitely argued about if that was going to be real. Remember? When we used to, Remake? When I would
Back
tease you endlessly. I'd be like, that game ain't coming out, dude. There's no such thing.
Will never happen.
Yeah, I'll take the loss on that one. That one, it hurt a little bit, but I'll take the loss. That was one of those situations where I'm really happy to be wrong. I legit did not think, I just didn't think it was going to work out. I was like, just no way, and the companies being involved and stuff like that, and us going back and forth. And I remember that was when Reg was on, and I'd be like, Johnny, it's never happening. And Reg would always be like, Carrick killing Johnny's dreams. And look, we both got to play the dream. It's good. It's good to be wrong. Sometimes it feels nice.
It's cool that you liked it too, because I was kind of thinking, it's going to be too Japanese, too weird. But I think they did a good job with localization, making it a bit more accessible. Like,
not only that, but I mean, it was its own thing. And like, I am all for that. Even if let's say I hated it for some reason, it still had the tropes of a good game. So like, if I did hate it, it would be weird, or it would be much harder to describe. I'd have to spend a long time to describe why I hated it versus, let's say, I just wasn't a big fan. I'm very interested to see how the new one's gonna, like what that's gonna entail. Because I think Remake didn't do well, right? Financially, isn't that the story, that Remake did not do well financially? I didn't
know about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were saying that Remake did not like. In fact, I think Square even said something like that out and about when they were talking about their financials.
Damn.
I don't see how you don't do it, though. Can you imagine the blue balls on gamers? Can you imagine if they're like, we've looked into it and we've decided that we're not gonna,
Yeah,
we're not.
We lost interest suddenly 25 years in.
Yeah, we did the first two, and we're like,
we've been obsessed about this game for 25 years, but
we'll leave it on a cliffhanger. That's the way it is. Looking back at remakes, the other thing, and the reason why I named the like the science of game remakes, but the idea, especially when you look at remakes, what's interesting to me, dude, is we have like the remake of the remake already. We've already, Last of Us has got the remake of the remake of the remake of the remake now. You've got these weird situations. And I feel like those are so much safer, really. When I think we all do. We all do. I don't want to pretend like I'm the only one. But those are so much safer. But even safe-wise, I gotta point out, I'm still completely confused why The Last of Us has so many remakes. If there's any game in the world,
it keeps getting remade.
So like, you don't always get a remake. I mean, a remake of a remake is weird in and of itself. But when you start looking at like the small changes and stuff like that, it's one of those times where you're just like, dude, I don't really quite understand.
It's hard to track.
It's hard to track the financials even of it. It's almost like they were, how you used to see the things where a movie would come out, you'd be like, it was in a series, and you'd be like, this sucks. And you found out it's because the company was going to lose the IP if they didn't do a movie. Spider-Man, for instance, has had some issues where there's a discussion about you need to make a movie so you can keep the IP or adjust the IP, that kind of stuff. Sometimes, man, I'm like, dude, do they not own the IP and we're just not aware of it? Like, we just keep getting, I just feel like we just keep getting fucking remakes for that game. I swear to God, I would not be surprised if we got a remake next year.
And in sports, it's remakes. It's like a new dress or a new shirt.
It's such an odd, for that particular title, by the way. We don't almost see that almost anywhere in all of gaming. That's, I think, why it's even more it's even more interesting of why it's happening. Not Days Gone, wasn't it? Horizon Zero Dawn also got 2, though. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because
one for each. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Last of Us Part 1 remastered remake. Yeah. Weird. I don't know, man. Makes you actually wonder exactly what the financials are for the remakes. When you look at this game for Metal Gear, do you believe that this is a test? An expensive test. But do you believe that this is the remaking of Metal Gear so that they can look into the future of Metal Gear as a series that does not involve remakes?
It's hard to tell. I don't know where Kojima is in his journey. Is he just done with that?
He's done. This will be all
he's done.
Yeah.
So, like, in the future, there's no chance of him picking
It will not be him.
Picking up the mantle and not be him.
It would be solidly them putting a team together and moving forward with Metal Gear.
Solid Snake. Okay. No.
Solidly moving forward.
Yeah, I thought there was something there for a second.
Might be.
I think it makes sense from a business standpoint to use the IP.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think you're right. I think they are gauging the response to this and seeing if there is a thirst for more or not. What kind of level of response? I'm trying to think, have we had remakes bomb? Because they're generally, as you said, so safe that even if it's not a great remake, we had the Warcraft 3 Reforged. That was a disaster.
Holy shit, that was a disaster.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, some big ripples from that one.
So if we had a remake, so you're asking if we've had a remake or a remaster, which one? Well, or either. Or are we talking
Let's think about like a full remake.
Okay, I will say I don't know the finances on this. We're talking just financially, right?
Okay, yeah.
Are we talking about just financially?
That's a good reference point. I think so.
Okay, I would say Outcast. So Outcast is one of my favorite games of all time. I grew up on it. I was like, this is quite literally one of my favorite games. It was Cutter Slade was like the character back in the day when it was cool to just be that one-dimensional character. He had his little one-liners. It was a fantastic place. Sort of planet spanning, phenomenal. I really enjoyed the remake a great deal. That was Nordic, I believe. But I have no clue. I don't even think I saw a CC, like a concurrent player count. I can look that up in a second, but I don't even think I saw a concurrent player count being reported, meaning people didn't even care enough to report if it wasn't doing well. Now, in today's day and age, you got to understand that if you're not being talked about at all, that's pretty rough, because usually somebody will want to bring you down or bring you up, and that you can always find ground to do that. That game was just not even reported on. So I would say Outcast, at least from, and I hope this is untrue. I absolutely hope it is, because I really enjoyed the remake. But yeah, that would be mine. Do you have any?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Someone mentioned 13. They did a remake that was
they did do
also
a remake.
really bad.
Yeah.
We've had some ports that have been like remasters, but think about full remakes. I'm kind of struggling to find any that were terrible outside of Warcraft 3.
So listen to this. The highest all-time peak for Outcast: A New Beginning, which is at positive, was a grand total on Steam, by the way, was a grand total of 1,116 people. Now, that is approximately 1,015 more people than Concord, and cost them about a billionth as much as it cost Concord. So I don't know the financials of it, but understanding that that was a remake by a fairly lean company, it's probably still not good. But yeah, that was, and I think that was available on Epic too.
Yeah. That amounts to the moms, or like the mom and dad community from the devs. Yeah. Like, come on, mom,
your friends
dad,
and family
buy
plan,
the game.
where you give it to them, where it still counts if you just give them the code. 1,000 people got a code. Dude, that's harsh.
Rough.
People, let's see. Oblivion's a great example of something that everyone should play. They should just finish up some follow-ups to great games. Fable, where the actual F is that game.
Yeah.
Do online again. They need to properly beta test it. Poor preparation. I don't know what game they're talking about right now. Oh, Twisted Metal. I want a Twisted Metal Resurrection so bad. I see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like, I feel like remakes are generally, you should do remakes of games that are really well known. I think right now, the gaming industry right now, if you're choosing to make a remake, you probably shouldn't pick Outcast. Right? I mean, not to be rude, right? But you really shouldn't. Currently, it's probably not, even if you know that there's a classic group of people out there that love it, and it's considered a cult classic for various reasons. Under a Killing Moon, probably not the best game. Even though I love that game, it's probably not the best one to do a remake for, even though I would absolutely lose my shit if that game was getting a remake. It's just, but you shouldn't remake The Last of Us either. You know? Like,
yeah.
It's absolutely.
I think even Horizon, it's a weird
Horizons was dumb.
You know,
that, even though it was a good remake, you were just like,
looked great on PC. I'm not.
I know.
You know, I think it's a great way to play the game, but it just feels like we didn't need it.
Yeah, agreed. There was something else I was going to say about remakes. When we looked at numbers, I can't remember what it was, but I hate looking at the concurrent because it's just like, you know. It's Steam. It was released everywhere, so it's like, who knows? But usually you have to assume it's not selling, you know, hotcakes somewhere else. I think Outcast was also available on Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus, though, too.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
That's fair. Not related to the topic at hand, but I just finished Like a Dragon, and it was peak.
Yeah.
Secret of Mana was really bad. Was there a remake for Secret of Mana?
Well, there was a recent Secret of Mana, but I'm not aware that it's a remake. I thought it was just another title in the franchise.
Damn, that'd be crazy.
That's my understanding.
What else do we got for remakes? Any other parts of the discussion before I move on?
It's an interesting one. Yeah. I can't really think of any other remakes that really bombed, but it makes sense based on what you said. You know, like, you can also only go so far from the original.
Yeah, before you might as well just call it maybe a sequel, right? Maybe just a sequel. Just do it that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think oftentimes they try to stay pretty faithful. Some outliers are Final Fantasy VII, which went ham.
Yeah.
with something new.
Yeah. Retro Reviver says, how do you even get the rights to resurrect a 30-year-old franchise when the IP chain has so many gaps? So I found this out from Steve from Night Dive. He was on here and he was saying that they have investigators and all this kind of stuff. And they just, and he said one of the things that he had been impressed by, I think it was him or, yeah, no, it was him who stated that just actually calling up or emailing somebody and saying, hey, we're looking for the IP actually worked a couple times where they were like, oh, okay. And just, people didn't talk about it. No one knew where that IP was, but just a couple emails turned out to be successful. So just all depends on who's holding it. If it's No One Lives Forever, you ain't ever getting a remake of that. I think people sharded that shit out so many times. Like some dude who's living in fucking Cuba probably owns a part of that IP. But some of these titles are probably just sitting there. I mean, Power Slave was remade and, like those guys did that, or exhumed is what they called it. But those guys did that. Like, I love that these guys can go out there and remake some of these. But at the same time, yeah, getting the IP for some of these games is going to be hard, if not impossible. Let's see. Next says, how do you think devs balance fan demands for zero changes versus the need for modern accessibility? See, that's the thing I was wondering about too, is like accessibility. How do you adjust it? I think overall, maybe most developers now are probably coming under the assumption that it's like, we'll just put it in the options. It allows us to keep your game the classic. If you're one of those guys who's like, man, I can only play this game like I did when I was a child, which means in my underoos fucking playing it, eating my Cheetos, you can still play it classic hard mode like that. Or you can jump in like a normal adult, like a normal human with maturity and play it as, I'm just joking. But no, you have accessibility options. I think that's good. Yeah, source code goes missing a lot of times. That's true. That's why I was so amazed that the guys at Night Dive were able to make a game without the source code by using a decryptor as they played it. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
ACG, you dig that computer crap, and I don't understand it. So I have some lore on demand. Retrieval augmented AI is racing ahead. Which reg breakthrough do you predict will let players ask in-game encyclopedias like chatty NPC sages questions? I don't think they'll use regs. Just so everybody knows, that's like basically a reg is where AI doesn't have enough context. If you upload a 400-page PDF, it can't leave it all in context. So it makes a reg, which is like a database, and then there's a vector graph over it, and it can figure out where the words are by looking at different words and patterns of words, and it can give you proper data. So like a CSR at a call center, if they have the procedure uploaded correctly, the reg can go in and give them accurate answers with zero hallucination. It won't be like, and that's the other problem with the GPT. You upload a PDF, you start saying, hey, this is my D&D game. How is magic used? Yeah. And they're like, this game has no magic. And you're like, the fuck? It's called Magic the Game. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? ChatGPT will lose its shit. So those things won't be a part of it. I think what we'll see is what we're already hearing from devs. Many devs are going to move forward with AI because there's going to be a split between generative, which is like you get a pixel, you do some calculations on it, and you let it magically identify what kind of world it wants to make, which is not procedural. But I think that's one of the arguments that a lot of devs have is like, why are we making, seems to be a quite a big moral jump to despise generative when we've done procedural for so long. So there's that. But skipping that for a second, I think it'll just be language models trained on the game's lore. That's what it seems to me. You got to figure out hallucinations, but if you only train the LLM, by the way, you can now do that yourself. You can train LLMs on whatever you want. Train it on just Elder Scrolls lore, then it will just pipe out Elder Scrolls lore. It won't know who Jake Paul is. So no matter how many times you try to get it to tell you that,
you're not going to get some weird artifact of like pop culture going in there.
Yeah, I don't think regs or any of the assisted, guidance systems of PDFs are a part of it. That's for big databases. I'm working on one now where you can go in and you can grab the data you want.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff is great. Fantastic, especially if you run a business or whatever. And it's weirdly enough, right before AI became a thing, my biggest problem was I had a bunch of PDFs for a project, and getting a database with the PDF info was almost impossible because you have to use OCR. You have to use the visual recognition, which sucks. So if I needed data, I would either have to go through every PDF. We used to hire somebody to do that. We would hire somebody at my old business who would go and rename and basically make a sort of a brain main database so that it could be then loaded into a database and make sense document to document. Because if you didn't, there'd be no connection. There was no way you could say, does this document have the same, data as this document? Are they incorrect? You just basically have to make a fucking, giant Word document and just hope that worked. Databases are obviously fantastic, but they definitely have their issues, especially if you're trying to get information that isn't just like the answer. What do you guys use as your main database at work? Postgres for everything. Gotcha. Yeah. That's just the most robust. It's been around for fucking ages. And there's like 1,000 things you can do with that database overall.
Exactly. And it's open source, so you don't have to pay a license like SQL Server. They bleed you dry for those licenses.
Can I just point something out, though? I'm nowhere near as in love with open source as everybody else. Dude, open source has its issues. The privacy thing is one thing that's great about open source. It's yours. You can grab it. It's on your system, blah, blah, blah. If that GitHub doesn't tell you that in their item, there's not a server connection back to their GitHub for some reason, which has happened before. But as much as I love some of that stuff, man, there are times where a paid for app is better. Where I will futz around with like 5 or 6 open sources and I'll get a document server, I'll get this, I'll get that, and I'll be like, you know what? Yeah. It's not going to work. I got to pay somebody so that I know that they're updates, because I don't want to go in and update this new thing when Windows updates or when Postgres updates, whatever, and sometimes open source is just a bitch and you're like, yeah, I'm going to pay for this. I'll usually try open source for everything first. And then I'll be like,
stuff like AWS sits on top of Postgres, and then you get the best of both worlds where you have support from them because you pay them, and you don't have to pay the license for the database itself. You pay for your compute.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. DN Forever was more of a sequel. That's true. That's true. Duke Nukem Forever, one of the worst ever made, but yeah, it was a sequel. All right. Hanging in there. Says the Embrace the Grit fiasco has ruined any chance of some possible remakes. I would say no. I would say I understand where you're coming from, but they also sold a bunch. They've also got back to, I guess you would say, financial stability, and the IPs are worth money. It doesn't, let me describe it this way. If Johnny has the IP and I have the IP, and we're both, we both know we have an IP for different games, it really doesn't matter who owns it. You can still get it if you want to make something. And if you think that because one company has an IP, that means they'll make a game, look no further than Sony or Microsoft, who have shit tons of IPs where you don't get any games from them, and they're holding on to IPs. That is not, it doesn't mean, I don't even think it means a worse chance. In fact, I think their problems that they've had with the big fiasco, I think in a way it's actually helped, because other companies, if there was a desire to make a game out of a particular IP that Embracer was not farming out to somebody, there might be a higher chance of that company renting the IP or buying the IP outright. So I agree with the thought process, but I think I disagree in overall principle and how it seems like that's going, because they've already sold. You saw 3 or 4 companies bought themselves out of Embracer and aren't even a part of Embracer. And they would have never been able to do that prior, and they were able to buy themselves out. One company borrowed money from another company to buy themselves out of Embracer to go to the other company. So, like, it goes to show you that if there's mobility wanted or something wanted, they'll figure it out. Proteus says, not allowed to use open source. Oh, that's too bad. CVEs and long-term support on open source can be an issue, too. CVEs. What's a CVE? Listen, CVs are resumes. I'm trying to think of, he's from Canada, so I don't know what CVEs are.
Oh, it's vulnerabilities.
Oh, God.
It's common vulnerabilities and exploits.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. SBZ, $5 super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. You rock. He says some games should not be remade because they're already perfect. They're perfect as is, meaning there's no improvement. They're perfect. There is quite literally no improvement that can be made to these games that he's going to say, meaning absolutely no improvement whatsoever humanly possible He says, Metal Gear Revengeance. Do you agree? Okay. Do I agree? I didn't play Metal Gear Revengeance, so I can't answer that. I'll give you that one. Yeah. I'll give you that one. I don't know, man. I don't know. Is there a game out there that...
what's a game you love? Let's say like an older game.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Is that such a perfect game that you wouldn't want a remake?
I do not want to...
Sorry, that's my cat pressing buttons again. Whew. Okay.
That fucking scared the fucking shit. That's so loud. Sorry, everybody. That was beyond belief loud. I apologize.
Okay.
Because if it was that loud for me, I have a feeling that was fucking crazy for everybody. I don't even remember what question. Oh, is Metal... I would like to...
Knights of the Night Republic.
I like Knights of the Republic. I think that remaking it would adjust the rule system and a couple other things enough that it will not feel like a Knights of the Republic. It would feel like Knights of the Republic 3. So it would not feel like 2. It would feel like 3. Yeah. Because I don't think people would buy into the rule system that they had at that time, even though I was fine with it. Yeah. But that one's sort of unfair because it's technically in the works to be somewhat remade. But like a Space Harrier, I'd like to see it remade with better graphics, sure.
Yeah.
Deus Ex 1, love to see that remade. What about you? Is there a game that you're like, don't remake this?
See, I view it differently because to me, the idea that SBZ is talking about of perfection is a combination of the game plus how you were at the time of experiencing that game.
Yeah.
And that's the combo that you remember, right? That's the chemistry in your brain. And like we always talk about, if you play an old game now, you won't have the same reaction, the same experience, because you've changed as a person, you have other expectations.
Agreed.
All of this stuff, So like your memory of perfection, I agree. Like, I understand that you don't want that to be like taken or replaced, but I feel like you, that it would just be a new entry or like another spin, another take on something that I like. And I think that's just adding and not subtracting.
Not subtracting, yeah. I guess for me, it's like, I don't need to see it. If they do it, I'll treat it like a 3 or whatever, but I'm not too beholden to the old. If they remake a game and they call it a remake, meaning not a remaster, I'm pretty okay with whatever they do, because it's like, we've seen Final Fantasy VII, right? That's so far beyond a remake that we're accustomed to that it's almost hilarious. So at that point, you're just like, okay, I don't know what to call this. I mean, it is almost a sequel in remake form. So yeah, I'd be okay with almost anything being, getting the attempt to be remade, I guess.
Yeah.
SBZ says Johnny's cat doesn't like Carrick's answers. That was awful. Yeah, sorry guys. Carrick thought he was being censored. Nah, never. They wouldn't censor me. I love Dragon Age Origins, but man, it's crunchy. I would love a remake from Blue Point. Give it the Demon Souls love. You want to see Dragon Age Origins be remade by the Blue Point guys? That's an interesting thought. I feel like the overlap isn't there. So, I mean, I don't think I'd want to play Dragon. Would I play a Dragon Age? What would we call it? Dragon Age Resurrection. So you come you talk to the company. You're like, you guys have fucked this up. You fucked up a bunch of games. Dragon Age doesn't mean near as much as it did to people. We're going to go back. We want to take the origin style. We want to remake the game. But at the same time, we're going to use Blue Point. I have a feeling everybody be like, but why? Because what you could do is take Dragon Age and say, let's somehow tell a story where combat is hyper important. Mm-hmm. And you play more towards the Dark Souls style of, by the way, would I like it? Probably not. I'm just saying.
It's a Souls Dragon Age.
Yeah, right? Like that doesn't appeal to me too much, but I feel like Blue Point in particular is such an odd. I feel like when these guys do well, everybody thinks they can do everything well. Does that make sense?
True.
And so
we saw it even with Larian and Baldur's Gate 3, where they were saying Dude, just put Larian on that project. It's
dude,
like, guys,
I love Afterburner from Sega, man. Put Larian on it. They could do it. And you're like, dude, what? Yes, that is a better example. Yeah, the idea, Larian in particular, who I adore, absolutely just kills me. Yeah, but I'm saying so you're not saying put Blue Point on it. What you're saying is like Blue Point gave the love to Demon Souls.
That level, maybe
that makes
the
sense.
Level of like,
yep. I totally get you now. Okay, thanks for clarifying, because I was really confused by the random company being mentioned. But absolutely, yeah, you could do that. What else do we got for remakes? Anything else before we move on? I don't think there's anything for remakes.
No, I think that's it.
Remakes are always such a hopeful, but also ultimately like sad, weird discussion. It's like you get excited about it, you're like, oh man, and then at the same time you're like, I don't know. Like half of the time I feel like I'm saying I don't want something, which feels really weird to say, but it's like a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I'd almost rather not have it, which that's just a negative way of thinking. Let me look here. This is how you can tell somebody's got an HDR fucking monitor. Bro, the screen is this fucking big on my massive monitor. It's that bright that I'm like, it actually, I'm trying to minimize it so I can read it without it looking like I'm bathed in iridescent light, which I still look. So let's talk about this. Announced while we were in this discussion, Ubisoft has confirmed a new first-person Ghost Recon game is in full development. So this is something I talked to Void about just 2 days ago. He had said that he had heard that rumor. I couldn't remember. I guess I didn't remember that there was that rumor at all, because I was like, I hadn't heard of that. So I was like, well, you can hold out some hope. But yeah, it looks like there's a new Ghost Recon. I think he was thinking it was Splinter Cell. When it comes to Ghost Recon, did you do Wildlands or Breaking Point?
But it used to be Blendlands. Now it's Blend Point.
Yeah, sorry. Did you do that one?
Yeah, I did Breakpoint only.
So the third person, I think a lot of people like. So I shoot from the first person mode when I play that. I've been playing a shit ton with Amudski just yesterday, day before he was playing, but 3 or 4 days ago we played for many hours. Had such a blast. But there was something about it that was intriguing because I think I was enjoying it more with third person. So switching to a first person does really adjust everything. And I'm just wondering, like, what do you think about, like, do you feel like that completely adjusts the feel? Are you okay? I mean, I know you didn't probably love Land Point, but I mean, is that something that you're even interested in if it's a first person?
I felt that the third person felt a bit more immersive because I could see the movement, the animations,
right,
and stuff. And there was something about the look of the character that I liked, and how you were at time, tried to stay hidden, and you could see yourself in the picture in a way instead of just being the first person. And I felt like it wasn't as much about the shooting as it was the
positioning,
the kind of action. Yeah, but positioning, the action and stuff like that. That's so fair. For that game, I liked third person quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it does change it because it's like if you're in third, you can see things you could never see in first, right? You can see over a cliff, or you can see where a guy is while still being in cover, even though you don't have a real, it's drone view, really. It's like, imagine if you had a drone on your back just looking around. The idea that they're doing first person, though, I think it does, personally, I feel like it's a bit of a weird idea, because if you look at what's been successful for them, Wildlands and Breaking Point did really well. And then Far Cry did not. And if you change it to a first person, its comparisons will inevitably go more towards Far Cry than it will towards Breakpoint and Wildlands. So I find it interesting that they've chosen to do first person, unless, and the reason why I bring this up, unless it is more like their older games, where some of I think it was Vegas and a couple of others, if it skews more that way, the comparison for a Ghost Recon, and of course Siege, but I mean, this will be single player is what it sounds like. I think the comparisons will go towards those, even though technically, I think for whatever reason, the third person ones did better. We'll just have to see. I mean, they didn't really say anything other than Ghost Recon's got a first-person game coming out. Like, it's the typical thing where I'm sure somebody will dive into it and try to itemize every word they said. But currently, that's all we know. But I would say, for me personally, it feels like maybe there's a chance they'll go back towards an older style. Maybe, something that's a little bit more, something that's not Siege, but something that's a little bit more tactical. Because I didn't feel like Wildlands or Breakpoint were tactical. They felt more, just open world, they just felt they felt differently. And just so everybody knows, they basically just, during a discussion, they stated, used for future, the agreement with Tencent is that it will be used for future development of their brands such as Ghost Recon. And he states Ghost Recon is just one example for our first-person shooter type games. So that's about the most information we have. I mean, the only other one that's first-person that's Ghost Recon is the multiplayer game is Siege, and that just seems like that. Like I feel like Siege, they just redid their graphics. They did the big graphics adjustment. I don't see them, completely and like wanting to compete against their own game. So it'll probably be something different. Rick says, do you think listen, I'm having a hard time reading the screen because my eyes are still fucking blinded by the screen opening up. Not lying. Rick says, you think they're going for a tactical approach like Ready or Not? Oh. I mean, the old Ghost Recons were more tactical. Maybe so.
They're always co-op, right?
They have been for a long time. Yeah, a long time. There's always been some kind of component like that. I'm trying to think. I don't know why Ready or Not would be the title they would aim for. In fact, I feel like Ubisoft doesn't aim for other people's games. But as a comparison, Ready or Not is sort of the Dark Souls of shooters. I mean, it can be really rough. I don't know if they would go that way. Would make sense, though. They're military. That's the one thing about all their military games. You can live forever. It's so weird. Well, except Siege. But if you play, a Tom Clancy game, it's always like, we've got our military. We're going to, it's going to be all highfalutin military tech. And then the guy can take like 6,000 shots in the face. It's just the way it goes. Let's see. The new Battlefield stuff has looked and sounded good so far. Yeah. Did you see the destruction for Battlefield?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it looked amazing. Dude,
that looks awesome. I mean, I'm sure they'll fuck it up, right? Like, I'm not even going there. I feel like they can't get it right. And I will play each one because I'm always waiting, but I feel like I feel like something will go wrong. But I love the destruction in that. The video that they show, that shit looks tremendous, man. And they show like stuff falling even a bit after the first like destruction has happened, like debris. And I mean, it's gonna, dude, video cards are gonna be like, come on.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What are you throwing at me?
Do you even respect me at all? What else we got for discussion? Do we have anything big? It's been a quiet week, man. I even looked online for like general discussion about anything games. Not much. Some releases, some general talk about just different things people are hoping for in August, and that was it, man. It's been a quiet week, dude. It's been one of the more quiet weeks I can remember in a long time. I was actually going to do the podcast about that, about what happens when a couple weeks are quiet. Are you waiting? Are we all sitting there going, something bad? Something bad's going to happen. Is there any news any questions in the Discord?
Oh, let's check. I believe we had a couple, so let's go through that. Mr. Green Saturn says, hey, ACG, how do I explain the concept of a Metroidvania to a normie?
The concept of a Metroidvania? Does he mean like just the generics?
Yeah, what makes a game Metroidvania?
Because it's like interconnected world, progress, checkpoint saves, and one other thing. I can't remember. Is it backtracking? I think it's those three things combined.
It's backtracking. It's unlocking new paths.
Yeah, progress gated
that were previously gated.
Yeah.
as you unlock new moves and new abilities. But yeah, it is around backtracking where you can go back and suddenly there's a new path you can explore now, that type of thing.
Can I just point out, since the days of Zillion on the Sega Saturn, Sega Master System, I had to go 2 more gens back from what I said out loud. Zillion was that way. So to me, calling it a Metroidvania is a little weird, you know, like
it just became,
to me, they just all feel like platformers, you know, and they have whatever their shtick is. But yeah, that would be it. Especially the progress gated stuff. I don't know why they got a genre name so late in their life, I guess was my comment.
Yeah.
Because they've been around for 40 years. So it's weird that only within the last 10 or 15, suddenly it became a terminology that is like spread out when you're like, why are we just now, like, why have we separated this? It's, you know, it's got a little bit of a stink to
and
it.
They don't have to be side-scrolling games to be Metroidvania.
Nope, they do
You
not.
can have, you know, let's think about Zelda. Some of the Zelda games you have this where you unlock a new ability and now you can get to places or do stuff that you couldn't before.
Yeah.
So like a new layer opens up, basically.
Right. Yeah.
That type of thing. So that would be a Metroidvania element.
Yeah. So weird. And I've heard people call it, Powder Keg says, people call Castlevania games Metroidvania. Not only that, but I've heard people call it Vein Metroidia or something. Somebody called that because they were like, actually, it's got more Castlevania than it does Metroid.
Right.
You know, you're just like,
yeah, okay.
Roguelite. What else we got?
This one from A1 Nagel. Cell phones are interesting because some tech lovers want to upgrade every year and some once a decade, both for their own good reasons. What phones are you all rocking, and do you have reasons behind your choice? It's a good question.
Dude, I got a Pixel. Listen to this. Super brand new Pixel 3 XL. Just joking. That's not brand new. It's like a good I think, what is that, 7 generations ago?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't even connect to the, you can't even make phone calls on it. I use it for the webcam, and I use it to take pictures of the dogs.
You literally can't make phone calls?
No. I don't even have a service on it in that way. And I mean, I can make phone calls because there's all kinds of hacks you can do. Call them through your LAN, like if you have a network. But yeah, I don't even have a cell phone plan anymore. What do you got?
I got a Nord. I don't know if they have a different name.
Nord.
Nord.
I've never heard of that.
T. I think they're pretty common here in Europe, but OnePlus, is that what it's called? Someone might know in chat. Yeah, I think it's OnePlus.
Is it good?
Sure. It's quite good. I've had it for years now. It's been solid. But I also don't use it for a ton. Kind of like you, I'll send some messages like to people, and that's about it. You know, I'm not really playing games and stuff.
I use mine for a ton of reading. I use it as it's pretty cool to have it, you know, just to do whatever, play some music, you know, throw some music on there. But I'm so old fashioned that I don't even want to sign into fucking Spotify using the LAN here. So I'll usually throw the actual music that I have ripped onto it, or SoundCloud music I bought, throw that onto it and actually use it physically. Because I'm always nervous, even though my house has one of the best signals ever, and almost every business you go to has a guest Wi-Fi that can stream Spotify at the very least. I'm still always of the opinion, what happens if I go camping, or what happens if I go, you know, what happens if a cell signal goes out? So I always have like a couple books, a movie or two maybe, and then, you know, 40, 50 songs on there just in case, because you never quite know, you know. Is there a landline in the home? Mine? No. My wife's got one. But no. Well, we have a honeypot phone, which is a fake landline that takes all the people's phone calls and just ignores them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like a black hole of.
Yeah, it's just a black hole phone number so that they can call it. I'm like, dude, if I'm dying, I'm dying. I don't give a fuck. And my wife's got a cell phone, so she's taken care of. She can call, and the thing is you can still use it for chats on email, or, you know, for whatever. You can still get it. So I can still pick up stuff with the phone because I can connect it to the LAN. So not really disconnected. I just don't really Your phone, everything's so tracked by phones and phone numbers now so much. And, there's, if you get your number sold or, people calling it all the time, I was just like, I'm going to make a honeypot phone and just leave that number out there for people to a catchment so that people catch that phone number as the primary phone number. So the only issue I've ever had is one time with a bank, they needed a phone number. And so I was like, I'll give them the honeypot number. But then some websites you go to will like, we need to call your number to give you a code. Which I did get worked out. I did figure out a way to do it. But for a while there, I was like, fuck, if I need to sign into something, I'm sort of screwed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've got it figured out. I use my cell phone. I use my tablets a lot. I think cell phones, I got to say this. My wife, she's got SR, the cameras. You've got cameras. I'm blown away at how good a fucking cell phone's webcam is. Like dude, I had spent money on the DSLRs, the webcams, all this stuff. And there was always issues, especially with their ISO is always bad. Their sensor.
Yep.
They'll be like, oh, it's a 1.8-inch sensor.
Or it's the autofocus.
It's the autofocus. It's all these things. And one day, and this was not, I had done it before, but this was only like 4 months ago. I was like, I'm going to plug this in and see if I can, use it as a webcam, and downloaded a driver and hooked it up. And I was like, Jesus, I should have been doing it. The only problem with cell phones, man, do they overheat fast. If you use a cell phone as a webcam, that thing puts off the heat. I mean, I don't know what's going on in there, because you can watch movies on them transcoded with no issues. But there's something in particular about if you leave a cell phone running its webcam, just using it like I am, you can feel heat from it, like a good generation of heat coming.
I think the processor is just doing a lot of work.
I'm just wondering, why would it do more work there when, like, let's say you have you watch movies on it or you transcode movies on it, and that doesn't seem to do it. Like, what extras?
There must be some type of like image processing thing going on that's expensive.
Oregon says, my neighbor used to have a red phone landline just for when Elvis called. I have no clue what that means. Oh, and by the way, is this correct? Now we can see top down. What are you doing?
See, this is the problem, Carrick. The paws are right next to the beep
problem
button.
is you have your cat up there during a fucking podcast. Move the cat.
True.
Yeah, true.
It's
nice, no argument, though. No argument. True.
No, because rationally you're right. But
I thought Johnny was talking about NordVPN. Yeah, it can be cute at a different time. Sometimes ugly works. Just saying.
Right.
I did think he was talking about Nord. I also thought he was talking about NordVPN. And I was like, they have fucking cell phones. Yeah, some of the cell phone technology is getting pretty cool. Google Lens and shit like that. Walking around, taking a picture of your dog, and it'll tell you exactly what breed it is and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty awesome. I love that, but I don't really need it. I have a tablet. It's more than good enough technologically wise.
Yeah, I use my tablet way more too, just to watch stuff in bed. That
camera's a dog shit though. I have a Samsung tablet, a Premier Samsung tablet, and that camera is 1,000 times worse than this ancient ass Google. This ancient ass Pixel. I have no clue why. What else we got for questions?
We got this one from Psyched Chicken. Okay, amazing nickname right there. Is there a gaming franchise where you only played one entry in the series, really enjoyed it, but were like, I'm good, I don't need to play any more of these. This was a good one and done experience. For me, it was Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's the only Final Fantasy I've ever played and have zero desire to play any others, despite enjoying it.
Mine would be Death Stranding 2, because, I don't know if I would want to play a third, and I'm certainly not going to 1, but that's unfair because that's going back in time. I think his answer is really good, because I could see somebody playing that and being like, that was great.
I'm good.
Yeah. I don't really think that way, because, like, if it's a new game, it's a new game. I mean, I guess, like, I'm trying to think of why that would pop up in my head, or like a series where that's, because if I played the first one and liked it a bunch, intrinsically, I feel like I would want to play a second one.
Yeah. Or be open to it,
Oh, God of War. Interesting. God of War. That's Elden Ring. Okay, Elden Ring's different than Dark Souls, but I think what you're saying is if another Elden Ring comes, I could actually see somebody saying Elden Ring was great. I had a great time, but it was so big and there was so much. I just don't want to play Elden Ring 2 if there became, if there was an Elden Ring 2. That's fair. God of War, man, that's a heady choice, man. I don't think I would. I mean, if you liked it a bunch, why wouldn't you want to play God of War? Well, I'm assuming he means God of War 1, and then you have God of War Ragnarok.
I think that's the catch. The catch with the question, which is maybe a bit counterintuitive, where you enjoyed the game, but you had your fill with that series.
Yeah, I don't think I think that way. So I mean,
no.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the series too. If you have reason to believe that every game is going to be quite different in the series, like Final Fantasy, you would always kind of be open to trying out a new one.
Good point.
Whereas if you you played like Breakpoint or Wildlands, I can see you thinking, you know what, I've experienced this formula. I had a solid time in it, but I'm not really gonna.
So I got to also shout out Proteus's answer, which is Baldur's Gate 3. And I got to say, I'm going to steal that answer, even though I don't agree with it. And the reason why I'm stealing it is because that has absolutely been the answer in our Discord for sure. Even Telegram, we were in a voice chat a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about that. And the number of people who were like, great.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
Right. Yeah.
Loved it. Never, ever want to return to that genre or that world ever again. And I was like, whoa, that's such a, which by the way, it almost feels like if a friend invited you to watch a movie in a genre you didn't like let's say horror or whatever, and you liked that movie, but you just know in general, this isn't for me. And so I'm not returning to it. But Baldur's Gate would definitely be the answer I have heard for this question. Way more than
I can see that.
So can I. I think Baldur's Gate got people not only because it was big and good, but also because everybody was talking about it. And it was like, if I'm going to jump into anything, here's a game that like you can do a ton of stuff and it's really popular. It's made by a company that's really good at making games. I'm going to jump in. Seemed to work out quite well. What else we got for questions?
This one from, let's see, what's the next one? Knucklehead says, getting ready to go vend at a local video game convention this weekend for my work. Local video game store. Wondering if you guys have any cool conventions stories from over the years. Cheers. Have a great weekend. Oh, okay. Vend is
vendor
convention.
I think he means he's going to go vendor for his company, like sell stuff.
Okay. Gotcha.
Go to a convention and sell stuff. Be behind the booth kind of thing.
Ah, okay.
Have you ever gone to a convention, like a furry convention or whatever you go to?
No,
weirdos go to?
Honestly, never, never been to any conventions myself.
Yeah, I mean, the stories I have are just the same old boring ones, so I'm not going to repeat them. But it's like, Josh, we've gone to a couple. They're very good for one time. I mean, if you like that kind of stuff and you want to keep going, there's the business reasons to keep going. But ultimately, I had a good time. But I mean, nothing really made me go, oh, I need to put this convention on my list and, consistently.
Do you straight away want to return home when you're at those events and stuff?
It was so bad that Saturday night, we were supposed to have a couple meetings Sunday, and I was not feeling, okay, so first of all, PAX Pox, it's real.
Oh, yeah, that's a real thing.
And it only makes sense that it's real. You get 1,000 people in a super small space with recycled air, you're going to get sick. We went to the event. We got home. We did all Friday. We go in Saturday, and about Saturday at 8 p.m. while in California, I was talking to Cadiz, and I was like, you know what, dude? I don't feel the greatest. And I get, there's a term for it for horses, but when they break back towards their barn, when you turn them around, you have to be very careful with a horse because it'll be like, I'm ready, and they bolt home. That's me in a nutshell. So the moment we got home on Saturday, I just was talking to him, and I'm like, you know what, dude? I'll pay the hotel, for cancellation, but I'd rather just crank it home. And that was like a 10-hour drive. And I was like, do you want to go? And he was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind just driving through the night. So we just jumped in the car and we just drove home. There's something about being home, after you've got your shit done.
Yeah.
It was what I wanted to do. I had to get out. And yeah, it was a fun situation. There was no bad like times there. It was actually all good. It was just, the idea of waking up early to get packed and then still take the trip anyway was far less enticing than just leaving at night and getting there early in the morning. So
yeah,
you can't do that with a flight though, obviously, unless you want to pay a shit ton. So we didn't do that with the flight. ACG will go only if sponsored, confirmed. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
all those Disney trips, sponsored Disney trip.
The Disney trip. I do feel like I wish I had been sponsored a couple times, because sometimes you'll go there and you just be like, dude, it's costing so much money, man. Because they charge an arm and a leg for the hotels at conventions. It is
because they know it's nearby.
Bro.
Yeah, they know.
It's ridiculous, man. And we'd go like I think we planned one 5 months ahead of time, and it was already, it was like the moment you put in that day, the price was like, instead of like 200 a night, it was 800, whatever. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, it was super expensive. What else we got?
Last question here from Phil Strider. Hey, buds.
What's up, Phil?
Just curious
Sorry.
to how you guys manage playtime. Casually, not for review. Are you able to stick to the same game from start to finish before jumping to the next thing? Or do you play 2 or 3 other games bouncing between them? Maybe games with a length scope that you can finish in 1/3 of the time, maybe a multiplayer game. I usually have 2 games, main squeeze, currently Final Fantasy 16, and then a side small game or multiplayer game like Hearthstone Battlegrounds with a buddy. Enjoy your weekend, dudes. Thank you, man.
Such a boring answer. I just play games. I don't even think about.
But do you have
stuff.
like several irons in the fire where you got your?
Sometimes,
let's say you're playing altars for review, and then on the side you're doing.
But he said distinctly not for review. So I was just thinking, like, if I had extra time, it's really just what I want to play. I just don't think in those. I don't think in those ways. I probably would have at my prior job, because I played more then than I do as a reviewer. Because you set it aside. So when I was at my old job, it was a tough job. There was a lot of hours. And so I would set aside time that would be I didn't want to be disturbed when I was, because I set that time aside. So it's like, okay, I would make plans with friends and say, let's do 6 hours on Saturday of this game. So everybody make that plan. So you'd accrue more hours than I certainly accrue now, especially playing casual or my own games, for sure. Yeah. Just because.
Yeah.
Now you can do it a little bit more. And as you get older, you have either more or less time. It depends on how you put it together. But what about you? Like, do you track? I don't even track my time playing non-review games. I just play games. Like, it just,
I play games.
I play the game.
But I bounce between things. It depends on the mood. Some days I want to, really like self-improvement mode in League, where I'm trying to, just become better at the game and just get competitive. Some days it's like that. Other days I want to chill back, just turn on the PS5, play some Death Stranding, and be completely like contemplative and stuff like that. Now, other days I've also been playing Night Rain with a friend, and that's also more on the kind of social aspect of playing something with a buddy. So yeah, I would say it's a mix. But at the end of the day, it's what you say. It's not so much upfront decision as it is, what do I want to play? And usually it's kind of switching between a few.
Yeah, and I would say, unlike you, this does happen to me occasionally, but like, it's hard to describe. I can tell there are times, and this is not to, like, I'm not calling you out. I'm saying anybody, but I've noticed it with you. There'll be times where we're playing a game or you're streaming in our Discord, and this is not your bedtime, like, because I know you try, you're more religious on your bedtime. There'll be times where I'm just gonna say it. I'll be like, Johnny's gonna sign out within 15 minutes, and I don't know why. Probably
because
I've been a host. I can hear your
Yeah.
voice, and I can hear. I'll track the number of
It's
responses.
winding down. It's winding down.
Well, it's not only winding down. It's if somebody pisses you off, or if the discussion is one that you're not. Whatever. But I've known you well enough that now I can literally be in there, and be like, for sure he's signing. And I will do that with almost everybody. It doesn't matter if it's friggin' Void. It doesn't matter. Like Void in particular, I can go, he's out. Like he's out for sure. The one positive I have in my life, and I don't know why, is I never tap out. I can be in there for fucking hours upon hours, talk to everybody about games for all those hours. The moment I sign out, I'm going and I'm researching GDCs on how people make games. So when it comes to playing a game on my own, to me, it's that there's a ton to play that I'll never be able to, and I continually want to every second and see how people it's not just play them, it's see how they, like, even if you see something cool, and dude, I've spent an hour like looking at somebody lighting a torch in a game and going, damn, that animation, or, you know, this particle system, or how did they do that, or so the curiosity there is what drives me even in my personal life. So if I'm playing a game like Division 2, I'm still talking about the tech in Division 2. And I'll be like, dude, you know what's interesting is blah, blah. I love that kind of stuff. So I don't really track any of it, because to me it's just like being, I don't know. Would you track interest, I guess? I guess that would be the question. Get out of games for a second. If you were interested in something, do you track how much of a book you read? Because I don't, if I'm interested. And I think that's why with games is what I'm talking about. So if we switch over, because I know you're not that interested in games. I know you love them. But if we went to science and stuff that you and I talk about, do you ever count like how much you've read in a way? Like,
yeah, no.
Do you see where I'm coming from? Like, or how much you played or practiced music? I don't think
because it all blends in too. Like there will be times where I'm listening to a science podcast while doing something
right
on the side too. So sometimes it kind of just blends together.
Yeah. And because I think it's interest based instead of job based or goal based, I don't track it ever.
Yeah.
Because that also, you and I are pretty good at controlling, let's say, what we do, and we don't get too into neither one of us are too, I guess you would say, addicted to stuff. We got pretty lucky in that. I don't think we are, but for the most part, we're not addictive personalities, so we don't have to worry about tracking it. I could see if somebody was addicted to something. I have a friend who does track a lot of stuff, and I'll always be a little confused when we're talking, be like, I think I've done enough of that. And I'll be like, I don't understand I just don't understand the thought process of what that means.
Yeah.
You know, but
I had that in the past with Dota 2. I definitely had a bit of a addiction problem with it. Yeah. But
I could see that.
But yeah, keeping stuff in balance. I mean, it's just become second nature in a way that if I play, let's say, 3 league games, which is what I call a block. So it's a 3-game block, usually like an hour and a half or something. I'm done. You know, I'm not playing a 4th game. And it doesn't matter if I won or lost. It doesn't matter if I played well or poorly. I played my block. Sometimes I play less too, like just 1 or 2 games. It depends on the day, right? Or some days I don't play. But it's I have this like natural limit where it's like I'm done for the day. I'm never going past a certain amount, not because I'm wary of becoming addicted again to something like that. It's just it's kind of ingrained in me that now I want to move on and do some other shit I'm into, you know.
Yeah, mine's natural. So I mean, when I'm done, I will tell you, I've been like, it's never happened on a podcast, but like, let's say, well, you were talking about, did I ever want to drive home right away? I've been with friends or family, and I can tell you, I don't know how to describe this feeling, and I'm not saying,
done.
Dude, and I don't know how to describe it, but it is as if it was all a facade, even though I know it wasn't.
Right.
But I can feel it like I remember trying to explain it to somebody that it feels like a graphical outline of a human in Gatorade commercials where they drink energy drinks and they get like the body fills up with red to show that they've got energy. I'll be talking to people, we'll be having a good, and it will go like as I'm talking, and I'll be like, oh, I'm done. Like everything is over. And I've talked to people who get tired when they talk to others, like especially if they're insular or if they're, they're a little bit more of an introvert, they need to get their energy back. usually that's not for me. It's usually just like, it just happens. Yeah. It just pops up and I'll be like, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm done. And sometimes somebody will bring something up that then gets you back onto it. But yeah, it's such an odd, you've had that then.
I have that too with people where it's like at some point,
Yep.
With my parents, we have the metaphor of turning
time.
into a pumpkin.
Yeah.
It's pretty instant. Like it will be, you know, we're having fun, we're, you know, having a chat and stuff. And it's like, okay, guys, you know, love you, but we're done.
I think the only other thing I can say is, and I'm glad you have that with family, because I think that really works out. I will say I'm a little bit stubborn. So if it does happen and I'm aware of it, which I almost always am, I'll try to push a little farther to see if I can control myself. So if I can have a discussion with something that doesn't interest me, because I think we become interested and interest-based in our lives so quickly. Like Discord can cause you to jump in, and then if people aren't talking a bunch, you leave. So I made a quiet chat on purpose so that people could jump in, not say anything unless they wanted to, and see, do people sit around or are they jumping from topic to topic or fun thing to fun? Because I actually think there's something very powerful about being able to sit there and not say anything. Like I talk in this because it's a podcast, but if I'm if I'm with my friends and stuff, I'll go for a walk with Cadiz for the first 40 minutes. Maybe once every other time we go, nothing is said at all. And I don't know if I don't think he's ever been bothered by it, but because it's happened for all of our lives. But we'll be walking around, we'll be out in the forest, 0 words whatsoever, never even a spoken word even uttered. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, yeah, so about this game, blah, blah, and then it'll just be an unlimited talk. But I think there's something cool about the ability to be, you know, hang out with your family and stuff like that, even if it's a little less than. But yeah, it's an interesting one, man. You guys, your pumpkin calling school, that your family's cool with it too, because I don't know how my family would react. My mom and dad are really, my mom in particular is really super. She's not super nice, but she's super social. I don't think she's ever run out of anything. And if I said I'm calling pumpkin time to my mom, I have a feeling I'd have to dodge spoons. Sense. Yeah, like I don't know how she would react if
offensive.
I was like, "Hey, mom, I'm calling it. You know, you've turned into a pumpkin." I think my mom would be like, "What?" Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Am I a joke to you? Bob says, have you been reading the Claude, or he's been reading the Claude 4 Opus system card for 3 hours ACG. If you haven't read that, it might want to. Yes, I have. And I'm going to read some more of it tonight. Those are just the specs and information on the new AI systems that are coming out for, what is it, Anthropic? Is it Anthropic?
Oh, cool.
The other one, not ChatGPT. What else do we got before we wrap it up? Anything amazing? Anything cool? Anything awesome? Anything going on in your life that you're like, dude, this is the greatest thing ever, and I've waited for 3 hours. 2 hours and 34 minutes. We're actually short. I've waited for 2 hours and 34 minutes. I have to tell Jeremy. No?
Honestly, not a ton. I will say I've been enjoying reading quite a lot, and that's awesome, because for a time I kind of lost the skill to do it. I've been reading this book that I told you about, The Empire of Silence, and it's called the Sun Eater series. And just think about how badass that is. Sun Eater. It's an awesome. So it's this series. Kind of sprawling, you know, universe, full of sort of intrigue and stuff like that. That is not as massive as what I'm doing with Brandon Sanderson, where every book is, 1,300 pages. It's a bit more doable and a bit more to the point and stuff. So I've been enjoying that. And yeah, just looking to get into some more sci-fi, because I haven't read a ton outside of the normal, Foundation, Asimov type stuff, and Altered Carbon. But yeah, been great.
I think that's what's cool about sci-fi, even though I wouldn't say it's my number one. I would say right now it might be, but it changes. I think the cool thing about magic is that it can come from nowhere, and if you buy off on it, you're pretty fine. However, at times, if you don't buy off on it, it can fall apart really fast because it is made up. With sci-fi, in particular, because usually it's based on some kind of scientific, half of the crux of it is about a scientific property, whether it be light speed and traveling, whether it be this, whether it be that, it's still based on a lot of sciences. And I sort of like it because I always feel like I'm learning a tiny bit. Like as I play a sci-fi thing, I'm like, I learn a little bit about whatever sort of scientific theory that allowed for them to write the sci-fi book in the first place. So if it's about AI or about sleeving or about teleporting, they'll usually cover it in some way. That even if they say, yeah, at this time, a company discovered the ability to do blah, blah, blah. And you realize you can track it back to the actual, some theory or some reason why they broke it in that. That's the one thing I would say sci-fi has over fantasy, is that at times if fantasy breaks, if something breaks, especially in the magic in fantasy, I'm just like, if I don't like it, then it falls apart. Like everything, because that's sort of the one thing that holds me. I don't need to always read books with fantasy having magic or anything. I'm just saying when they do. I've noticed that because I know you like Sanderson, who always loves to do his magic stuff, and occasionally his magic stuff hasn't spoke to me like it spoke to you guys. In fact, it's the exact opposite. So when I hear somebody be like, I love the magic, blah, 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 and I'll be like, oh, damn, that's the one thing I fucking hated. Like I didn't like its setup at all. Therefore, the entire book sort of fell apart. It's a little bit, I guess, like Harry Potter. If you didn't like the Muggles and if you didn't like, do you think that it would fall apart?
Is it that it's like a hard magic system where it's kind of broken down and explained as if it's an extension of science type thing?
No, I like that. I think that we don't need to get it. Depending on which one. So
it's a specific thing for that guy, right?
It's not only in some books from him, and it can be anybody. I've read many a magic, a fantasy book where they start describing the magic, and I'm like, for example, Wizard's First Rule was super popular for a while, and it's pretty close to like dark sexual S&M magic, but it was super popular because it went against the grain of TSR. It used to be called TSR, I'm sorry, but Wizards of the Coast. It went against the grain of the more soft magics, and it was like, this is a hardcore magic. So everybody was like, hey, you need to read this, and it was horrible. It was like, the more I read it, and I gave it 3 books, and I just kept plodding away going, because I liked a character or two, but every time they'd mention the magic, it was like it was just all over the place, and it didn't work. And that one was more, I guess you would call energy human based, where it was like people spirits plus the underworld. It just depends. It can be anything. And the next book from somebody can be great, and it can work out. It just always depends. And I've just noticed what I was trying to describe was, in sci-fi, what I've found is the additional idea that sci-fi hinges on some particular scientific element you can track to a real thing has helped me continually read the sci-fi, where with a fantasy one, if it falls apart, then a lot of times they treat their magic like science, even if they don't treat it like a scientific facet. It's still a big deal. It's in the world. And you're like, oh. The other thing about fantasy, man, if they tell me they're the last of anything, I'm out. I've told you this before. Last magic user, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't want to read about the end of all the cool shit. I want the beginning of all the cool shit. I want absolute anarchy in the streets, because that's why I thought Harry Potter was so enjoyable. It was because you're supposed to think there's no magic, but then you find out really it's like, they hide it, muggles can't see it, there's all this crazy stuff, and there's a ton of magic, and you're like, oh dude, that's so nice to not hear you're the last dragon, you're the last magic user, you're the last blah blah blah. And that's why Lord of the Rings never appealed to me, because you got Gandalf who meanders around tripping over shit, and he's the last of the great wizards, and you're like, frankly, if you're the last, we should fucking kill you, because you're fucking horrible. Like, you're like,
should have used the eagles.
Should have used the eagles and flown right at the end, and just had the movie be 30 minutes
I think
long.
Even worse than the last of is you're just after the cool shit. The cool shit. So like, you have a story where they had dragons, but you're now exactly in the period after dragons have died off.
Yeah.
So now there are no dragons. You just see these remnants of the thing, which are just a reminder of the cool shit you missed out on.
And can
for
we all
being in
point
this
out
time
that
frame.
if the dragons are gone, they're fucking dinosaurs? We already know what fucking dinosaurs are. I mean, come on. Like at some point they're like, oh yeah, all the dragons are dead. All we have is their fossils. And I'm like, you mean fucking dinosaurs? Because we can't even like that's all it is at that point. And you're just like, dude, what the fuck are we doing? Like that doesn't interest me.
What is the difference?
What is the difference at that point?
Yeah,
They're
what are
fucking
we doing
lizards
here?
and pterodactyls flew, so fuck. They're dinosaurs. I will say the cool thing about Dragonlance, which is why I think I'm this way. Dragonlance had thousands of years without dragons, and the starting of the book is the rumors and returns of dragons, and it goes absolutely ape shit. From that point on, it's all about dragons returning, what that means to an entire world. If different colored dragons with different ideas and different, who they align with, that to me was like magical. Was the idea of people saying, oh, it's never, they've been gone for 1,000 years, or I can't remember. Yeah, it's 1,000 years, I think. And suddenly having them come back, I was like, oh, fuck, this is so nice. We're getting the return of instead of the last of. And yeah, but on the other hand, there's been a couple the last ofs that have turned out really well. And I certainly loved parts of Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, that first and second movie were quite enjoyable, but at the same time, it's just like, and then you see them, especially to give an example of a terrible magic system, Lord of the Rings, you're watching them fight and you're like, are they magic users? Are they martial artists? Or are they fucking staff bow wielders? When the two of the
we
magic
just don't
users,
know.
spinning him around on his fucking head. And you're like, dude, what is going on? Like, is this seriously the level of magic that we're at right now? But yeah, it's it just depends. It just depends. I think what I was trying to explain to you was with sci-fi. I can see why you want to jump into it, because the other cool thing about sci-fi is, especially when you start getting to some of the tech, it's almost magic. If you treat telekinesis as, or maybe not telekinesis, but ESP as magic, at the point that you're using processors in people's heads and they're able to see things at the speed of fly sees things, suddenly that person is pretty magical. You're like,
or you can break the speed of light. Like it.
Yeah, you sort of have to buy into it. Let's see. Dragonlance is awesome. Yes, it is. I hate prophecies. Oh. What if they're the last of something pathetic, like the last simp or the last janitor? That'd be awesome.
Ooh.
Dude, the last dragon was good, but he wasn't really the last dragon. The last, what do you call it? What the fuck was that? No, there's another one. I'm drawing a blank on it. But I remember we were sitting there going, "What?" Because halfway they called it the last something. It's quite literally never the last of it. And I remember we were watching it going,
actually not the last.
Dragonlance goes into the ending of Magic. Yeah, at the ending of the series, which is like fucking 8,000 books later. They only had level 1 spells in that movie, Carrick. Yeah, that's the way I felt. I felt like Gandalf was a hedge wizard, which speaks well. I like hedge wizards. I like the idea of them, but they dropped into ritualistic magic a lot of times too, which is the slow speaking magic. That's the other difference. Is your magic fast, lickety split? Is it Harry Potter kind of like point shit happens? Or the end of Harry Potter, which the magic spell was one spell and two dudes just held their wands at each other for a great period of time. Dude, I'll tell you what's so crazy about that.
There's some docking stuff there, man.
How many times have you watched something and you were saying, why didn't they just fly? We've all talked about, why didn't you just fly? But you watch a Harry Potter or whatever, and you're like, dude, this guy's used this one particular spell like 1,000 times. Why doesn't he just trip him? Like, what are we doing? And instead they're like,
absolutely.
Like, dude, you're taking like 45 minutes. 6 guys fucking just hammer the shit out of this dude. The other guy comes in. We're good to go. But instead they're like, we got to do this ritual.
Yeah, or Star Wars, where they choose to use or not use
God, the Force. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, the Star Wars thing has always cracked me up because they'll be like, not this time, I'm going to die instead. And you're like, why? Dude, why don't you use the thing you've done 15 fucking times? What are you doing? Like, it's always so
just awesome.
It's just like superhero stuff. This is why I like games. In a way, games will say, here's your level 1 skill, and it works all the time other than a boss occasionally, right? We see that.
Oh, right.
The boss will be like, fuck that. But then you got level 2, level 3, level 4, and you know what they do, right? You watch a movie or a show, and level 1 is level 10. The very next, like an hour later, you see
the next scene.
Dude, the next scene, you'll see somebody punch somebody, and the guy's like, oh. And you see somebody punch somebody the next time. He flies through the wall sideways, goes down like 9 flights of stairs from one punch, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why was he able to do this at this point? And power creep is the term, especially when it goes up. But I've just noticed it's piecemeal and stuff. And games, that's one thing I like about games, Johnny, is like, and books. I think books are better at controlling that overall. Not always.
The progression.
The progression. Yeah. I mean, again, Harry Potter, the books, you know, created that part in the movies I didn't like. But I would say overall, yeah. And with games are the best, though. Usually you're like, other than that jackass piece of shit who somehow's only special ability is to ignore the one ability you were told you needed to buy. That's the one thing I hate, man. They'll be like, this is super powerful. You should probably buy this. This is a great thing. If you buy this, it'll be, and you're like, okay, I'll get that skill. You get it, you level it up. And the boss is like, ha ha ha.
I'm immune to it.
I'm immune to it. And it's like, then are you the one who was telling me to buy it? And this is all some kind of mind fuck? Because that happens so often.
Yeah.
I don't like the ignore enemy. The enemy that can ignore stuff. It's
like, this is the greatest spell, except for when it really matters.
Except for when it matters, yeah. And you see that in a lot of games. Some games don't do it. Some games are really good about it. I would rather just have them be strong, faster, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
or maybe be able to dodge it, or like something at least that's interacting with it.
Okay, let me ask you something else though, real quick. I know I said to wrap it up, but how do you feel about every single person in gaming getting together? They can't agree on anything, but they decide to agree on one thing. That one thing being no more basically different final forms for bosses. Would you be okay with that? So that means no more of the guy where you think he's fucking dead and then he stands up anyway and he's got a full life
new
bar.
HP bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if there was a rule? They're like, okay, no more final forms. I would actually be okay.
So it's like signing a petition, like the stop killing games thing.
Dude, I mean, when you get how it doesn't even, and the thing is you're slicing them and you're killing them and punching them, and then they're like, oh no, this is a fucking another form. I got to stretch. Like he cocks his fucking, you know, sleeves like Superman, like Cavill, and suddenly he's got a full other life bar, and you're like, dude, what? I don't know. I've never been a fan of the. You know, of that.
It's a very anime thing.
True.
Where either the protagonist or the bad guy will let's say they get their ass kicked, and then now they're having a flashback about their childhood to remind everybody about their motivation, and then suddenly they have this surge of power.
Okay.
Boom.
So
final phase.
Do you then feel that is nothing more than a replication of a Rocky montage moment, which I'm sort of okay with? Is that what you're saying? So Rocky gets knocked down, and then he's like, Mickey loves you. And he's all, fuck this. I'm getting up.
I'm reminded of why I'm in this fight, and, you know, with renewed vigor.
Is that what the animes are like? Because I honestly just barely watch any, so I don't.
Yes. I'm very conflicted on the multiple phase boss fight, because on one hand, I think it's super cheap for you to just tell me, all the progress I've made so far
is gone.
It's a new bar. At the same time, if it was just the same bar and it gets to a certain point, I guess it would be more predictable.
Oh,
I just go back and forth. Like in some ways, I like that there is a next form, because it's like kind of dramatic and it's cool. It's like, okay, now we're all out. On the other hand, I think it's super stupid, because if I'm in a fight, I would just use 100% of my power.
Right.
Why am I playing with you at 50? And I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, but they always did this, where they start the fight at like friggin' 10% intensity.
Right.
Imagine if you, I don't know, just put another example. If you go into a martial art contest, or I boot into a League of Legends game, and I'm playing at 10% intensity, and I have to wait until I get my ass handed to me to start driving it up to 100. Isn't that really dumb?
Not only is it dumb, but you did remind me of something. So the worst is when the entire story is about the bad guy, and you realize as you're playing, this bad guy, he's either a badass and he's fucking absolutely devastating, and you finally got to him, right? You finally got to him after hours, weeks, months. You've killed everybody. He's murdered your family. He's, you know, walking around in your sister's skin. And you show up to fight him, and for the first 2 whatevers, he has technically only fought at 10%. And it doesn't even make sense from a fictional level, where you're just like, well, wait a minute, why didn't you, if you were this strong? Or how about the mid boss that isn't a mid boss? He's actually the end boss, but pretends he's not the end boss so he can fly away after you beat him up in the middle of the game. You take on a guy, you're like, man, I fucking got this guy. You beat him up, you're like, and you can tell when you're doing it. I don't know about you. I can start to pick it up. I'll be fighting a guy and I'll be like, wait a minute. Wait, something's weird in the way this feels. And then
doesn't feel like a normal boss.
Something about it feels weird. And you don't even know if they're the main. Yeah. And then they'll be like, haha, I am the bad guy. And then he flies off. And now you have another 40 hours of gameplay to fight him again. And you're like, dude, if he flew off, why don't I just fucking like go find him? Instead, they're like, you know, you need to go and save this village. You're just like, dude, come on, man. I would say overall, the ones I don't like the most, I don't mind changing locations, which I sort of do love. If you're going to change up the character's abilities, I do like when somebody picks up the good guy, flies him to a place, drops him down, like Injustice's cutscenes when you knock somebody out of a level. That's great. That's like anime. What I thought anime was like this, and I think sometimes it is. I like that.
Yeah,
that's okay. But when the guy's like bang bang bang, and he just suddenly is stronger, you're like, why didn't you at the starting of the fucking fight, dude? Like, what is going on? Because that's what I do. If I was a new guy, I'd show up and I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna throw everything on the line right now, especially if I have healing potions. The other thing I love is,
you want to win, man. You're not there playing games.
I love that so many bosses still don't use healing potions too. I don't know why. I find it funny. Dude. Like, this guy is a co-worker of yours who's turned into a bad guy who fucking adventures through a game. By the way, I'm talking about a particular game. Fights through a game with you using fucking healing points and healing spells, and then at the end of the game, you're like,
forgets everything about healing.
Everything he's learned, and you're kicking his ass, karate chopping him. You're like, wait, this guy is not going to use anything. But what's the reverse of that? Even worse. And that's when you just get the best armor, and you make that choice. Do I buy armor for myself, or do I buy armor for the guy I really like on my team? You know what? I'm going to be charitable. I'm going to buy the guy some armor. You put it on him and that motherfucker turns bad, or gets cloned, or gets a spell and he fights you and you're like, you son of a bitch. There's been times where I've been like, I'm gonna fucking help out all my team this time. I'm gonna give everybody the best weapons, and I'll tell you what, if I die, do you know what I do? Load the old save and I strip those fuckers naked every time. That is like my one thing I do every time. If I get to a point
turn
in the
on
game,
me now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, you're going to throw me that kind of bullshit bone with like the charm spell? Screw that. And I'll just take everything, outfit them with the weakest stuff. And I'll be like, whenever you want to change, go ahead, buddy, because I've got your shit and I'm going to keep it until you go back to being a good guy. But yeah, those are some awesome switch ups. I mean, it sounds nitpicky. It is, but it also pops up a lot.
I think the biggest problem is when you have, say, more than one final form, where it's like, oh, this is my final form. Just kidding. Now this is my, like, metaphor. I don't know if you got to the end of that game.
I did. Beat that.
You did? Okay, dude. Like, and other, I think Persona games do the same thing, but like that one did it to an extreme where the boss was just, okay, here's my next form. Here's my next form. And now this is the final. And then, final battle.
It's also got
40
charm.
hours in. 40 hours in, and you're still seeing like final. Okay.
It's also got the charm stuff I was talking about.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
if
why,
I hear
by the way, that's
one
what I was
more
bringing
chanting. Up. Are we talking about the chanting in the battles? Oh.
It's so funny because it's an art. No, I was talking about the charm spells and stuff like that.
My brain's thinking about the chanting.
No.
The
chanting's
charms
from Metaphor. Metaphor is the music and the chanting.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the charms from?
Are we spoiler casting this?
Maybe we're not spoiler. Okay. I know exactly where it's from, by the way. So all good. Yeah, recent game this year, but we don't have to.
Yeah, I was like, I think you do because you were one of the ones to
first
be like, I hate this fucking thing.
Yeah, I guess we don't want to spell it out.
But especially when you look at those, I mean, they also can still power through this without it being an issue. Like you can have those issues, but I do wonder sometimes when like you'll hear somebody say, okay, this story is great or whatever, and you look at a story and you start to see these. I wonder, I sometimes, especially with story, it's so objective. Sorry, it's so subjective that at times I'm like, should we just all be less subjective and like not care about this thing that makes no sense? Or do you take that into, like, even with reviews or even just talking to you guys, there's some times where I'll be talking to somebody who'll be like, I love this story. It's usually an older game. They'll be like, I love this story. And I'll think back to the story and I'll remember that one thing you and I are talking about, where I'm like, dude, this is the most realistic story I've ever played in a game. And it's sort of like the lore discussion in a FromSoft game, where you get that big dichotomy of like what people consider to be. It's almost like you can't even say it's good or bad. You have to actually agree prior to that you're all going to talk about lore as being this particular thing, so that you can even then go further in that discussion. And I would say in some RPGs or games with the stage, you almost have to all go, okay, what are we talking about? Like, we have to revert it all the way back down to formula, get it as base chemical constitutes, and be like, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, now do you like it or not? Because even in this discussion, I've changed, saying like, if you change location, I'm okay with it, but you still are technically, in a final form. I would say Final Fantasy 16 is sort of what I'm bringing up here. There were times in Final Fantasy 16 with some battles that I was like where it didn't ever cause me to go, oh, that's cool. Okay, how about that? Have you ever thought, that's cool, there's another form in a game? And by the way, if you have, that's awesome. I'm not saying it's not happened. And anybody in chat, have you ever, though, been like, that's great, there's that's awesome, there's another form? Because I don't think I ever have. I may have liked the form, but I don't think I've ever once been playing and been like, oh, well, thank God it's got another form. Because, like, I don't know.
No, I have the opposite, where I'm fighting phase 1 and I can tell there's a phase 2.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can tell you're not having to chug through your heals.
Oh my God! You mean when you do more damage than normal?
It's a bit on the easy side. Yeah, it's like, so listen, let's
awesome.
Not fool ourselves. This is a late game boss.
Yeah,
and I'm juicing him. So this is phase 1.
Yep.
And I already get the anxiety of like, I know I'm going to have to get through the entire health bar, and then it's going to be a second.
Dude, there's something so frustrating. It sounds so weird to be frustrated by being able to.
You're just being ground down.
Especially if the game makes you do that. Like, there are some games that skip that initial, sometimes like momentary start. It's very rare. But when you get into that game, and let's say you do die on the second form, then you have to do the easy form first to get back to the actual form.
Yes.
And by the way, that reminds me of, I was telling you about some games, if you know you have a certain number of lives and you die a little earlier than normal, and you've been estimating your success on the number of lives you have when you're at the end, there are times where you do that boss battle, and if you do get hit too much against the easy parts, for whatever reason, you're like, should I just...
It's already over.
Should I reset it? Yes. Yeah, dude.
Reset it.
That's so funny, man. Yeah. Oh,
It's like, dude, I burned 4 heals in the Emma phase in Sekiro, like before the next.
Yep.
I'm done.
I love the idea of what you said, though. That first time you hit a boss, if you hit a boss and this thing pops up, and
it's
you
a chunk,
look and you watch it appear a larger section. If you see it go like blank, you're like, oh no. This is the first form of this fucking boss. Are you kidding? Yeah, dude. Oh, it's so rough, man. It's so rough. Losing a heal or 2 on the easy form of devil stage boss just makes me want to reset. That's what we were saying. That is exactly what happens to me. In fact, I think it's an extension of like Metroidvania style games, where if you have like 3 lives, Ghouls and Ghosts did this to me, where I'd be playing it and I would die a little earlier than prior times, or the pattern of prior times, and I would be like, might just be worth resetting. Anyway, well, that'll be it for us. I want to say thanks to Johnny, as always, for showing up. What are you going to stream, by the way? You doing any streaming?
Awesome. Possibly some League with the community. That's what I'm looking at.
Don't have any other... Is there anything you're playing as a main other than League?
So I'm playing Death Stranding as my main. With your friend. So the plan...
Or no, you're doing Night Rain with a friend. You're doing Dark Souls.
Yeah, Night Rain with a friend. So I'll be playing some of that too. But yeah, for now the plan is just Death Stranding until I complete that.
Gotcha.
For main game.
Yeah, and for me, let's see, working on a video right now, a couple reviews coming out. It's been actually the big roll up, I think, here now in August is or getting close to August. It's getting busy. I'm starting to see codes or people talking about codes. August has got Metal Gear and
ooh, yeah.
There's 3 or 4 on my list of games, but yeah, there's actually, August seems like the starting of what looks to be like a pretty busy holiday, which I'm pretty excited for. Anyway, everybody, I'd love for you to check out the Patreon as we wrap this up. If not, when this is over, if you could leave a comment, or you can go to Spotify and iTunes and leave a rating, we would appreciate that as well. Peace out, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week. Or,
bye-bye.
Yeah, it's not very much. It's like 2 hours.